Morning, everybody. We are back on the market open. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Took a day off. We are back. I am excited to be back. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Good morning, good morning, good morning. And, well, we got a lot to talk about, as always. And today is an especially important day for us to talk about a lot of things because I ended up taking a day off on the day that the world's largest company continued to become the world's largest company. Ladies and gentlemen, Nvidia in the pre-markets right here, 193.45. It did hit 195 yesterday, so it was a pretty exciting day for the broader markets. Now, markets were down yesterday. It was kind of like relatively flat to red. But Nvidia breaking through, I think, was very, very exciting. So we got a lot to talk about in terms of what happened with Nvidia, what's going on with a lot of other stocks. Applied Digital, they crushed earnings. Rocket Labs crossing $70 in the pre-markets. We got a bunch of different macro stats. We have some potential conclusions on the government shutdown this weekend that we'll talk about. So we got a lot to get into, but I am very, very happy to be back, and we'll get into it. So there you go. Did you go to the dentist place after? Dude, the amount of jokes that I got hit with yesterday in DMs or messages, it was great. It was great. Someone says, oh, do we call him a rootless, toothless AK Media now? I was like, goodness gracious, bro. No, the root canal was good. It was, before I got the root canal, I got a lot of DMs saying like, just like, stay safe, hope it goes well, it'll be, and root canal was fine, dude. Like, I've got a root canal before, like, it wasn't that big of a deal. It's like, they do a root canal, it took about an hour and a half, and now we're good to go. Ironically, he finished right before, like, literally right before the Nvidia breakout. So it's like, it finished, and like 2 minutes later, I checked my phone, and Nvidia's at 193, breaking out to 195, and then I start posting about it. So thankfully the root canal wasn't happening during the actual, root canal. But yeah, we got to see it. It was pretty exciting. I thought it was cool. Look, at the end of the day, I needed to get the root canal to kind of fix some of the stuff going on with my teeth. And I feel a lot better. As you can tell, not chipmunk. There's no swelling. I can talk better. I can eat better on this side of the mouth. So I have another checkup in 2 weeks, and we'll make sure everything's okay. But outside of that, we are good to go. However, we got a lot to talk about, a lot of macro stuff. I ended up taking the market close off yesterday because I was all drugged up and I fell asleep. So I woke up at like 5:30. I was like, oh, well, no market close today. But we'll be back today, and we'll keep doing everything that we got to do. So thank you, everybody, for being here. Let's get started. I think the first thing we got to get into is what the hell's going on with Nvidia. Actually, real quick, let's touch on Rocket Lab, and then we'll keep going from there. Yeah, VG lost the court case. That stock is down about 15%. Not the best with VG, so we'll keep going from there and see what happened with that. I know a lot of people are in that. Matt and Chris, I think, did a long episode last night talking about it. So if you listen to their Cash Flow Chronicles episode, you'll probably get a deeper understanding of what's going on. But that one is taking a hit in the pre-markets. Rocket Lab, let's do that real quick, and then we'll get into Nvidia. Rocket Lab signed another agreement with Japan, and that's why it is quite literally going to the moon. Rocket Lab has signed a direct contract for 2 dedicated Electron launches with the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency. The first one's going to be happening in December of 2025. The second one is going to be happening in 2026. Look, is that enough to be able to create some momentum in the stock price? Obviously, in the pre-markets, is that going to be massively accretive in terms of revenue and earnings for shareholders? I have no idea, but momentum is on Rocket Lab's side. And as a result, based on the announcements with Spinspective last week and another company that they signed 21 new launch agreements for, now with Japan, and they've had a good relationship with Japan for a long time, you're getting the stock at all-time highs. So Rocket Lab right there, $70.20. Absolutely incredible for those that own a lot of shares of this bad boy. It has been a massive week. ASTS, by the way, not stopping either. Closed at 85 over the past couple of days, now at 89.95. It looks like it wants to get to 100. Got to 91. That's a reminder to put my phone on Do Not Disturb. Got to 91.41 at a high 3 days ago. So the fact that ASTS and Rocket Lab are actually holding these levels, I also think is very, very exciting. And as a result, Space has had a massive week, which is seeing a lot of momentum. Space Mob is crushing it. So Rocket Lab and ASTS, congratulations for everybody. You are getting some momentum. Matt and Chris didn't talk about VG yesterday. Okay, well, I guess they're going to have to eventually talk about it because this is the name that they are into. Yeah, I'm not into VG. I don't know exactly what's going on here. Down 17%. There is some lawsuit, I believe. I know Sachin likes this name as well, so he was talking about it a little bit. I think with BP. I woke up this morning and I saw that it was getting hit, and I was like, oh, okay. Material. So the actual headline is VG loses arbitration case to BP. Yeah, that is the core headline. I mean, look, when you're in a name and they lose a big court case, I don't know exactly what the court case is about, but when they lose a big court case to a massive player in the industry, yeah, it's probably going to take the stock down. It's probably going to take a little bit of a hit. Oh yeah, well, I understand why Matt can't talk about it. You, Doc. For those that know, Okay, so eventually Chris will probably give some analysis on this and Sachin as well. But I got to go through this because I don't follow VG that carefully. I'm just like not into that oil and gas space as heavily as those guys. But I'll look at it over the next probably, until after the market open, and then market close, we'll go a little bit deeper and see what happened with these guys. So there you go. Venture Global loses arbitration case to BP. That's why that stock right there is down about 17% pre-markets. How about next decade? Is that one getting hit as well? Next decade, that one's actually flat in the pre-markets. All right, cool. So that's what we have on Rocket Lab. Let's talk about a couple other names, and then we'll get into NVIDIA real quick. Applied Digital, they crushed earnings. My goodness. Is that 28% of the pre-markets? I think that's 28% pre-markets. That's 28% pre-markets. It was up 5% yesterday. I mean, if you're in this one, congrats. You've been able to really hold on. They signed that massive CoreWeave deal a long time ago. And I think it was like in June. And, the stock kind of re-rated, but didn't really re-rate. It looks like after earnings yesterday, it has re-rated. Beat by 56% on EPS, 7 cents a share versus 16 cents a share, the street expected. And then 64 million versus 45 million. They beat by 41% on revenue. Revenue is up 84% year over year. I mean, again, you're just seeing a lot more momentum in some of these names that are connected to data centers, that are connected to the AI computing space. And quite frankly, it's hard for everyone to be in every one of these names, but there's a core faction of retail that I've just read their posts on Twitter that have been in this name for a long time. I mean, this stock, if I'm not wrong, I think it's up like 400 year to date. Year to date, 270. From the absolute bottoms, I think it's more in the 400s, but now it's about 300 year to date with the pre-market move. So if you've understood the thesis, you kept up with it. Same thing like in Iran, which, by the way, I don't know if there's a new deal or something. I don't think there's a new deal headline. That one's going up $68, 7% pre-markets. I think this one is also getting even more momentum. I don't think there was like a new GPU announcement or licensing agreement that was announced this morning, but I guess the anticipation of that is getting the street excited. Iran right there, $68 in the pre-market. Iran and Applied Digital continuing to do well. Nebius, by the way, yesterday closed at an all-time high, and now it's breaking all-time highs in the pre-market at 135.73. So we have seen these data center spaces continue to get excitement. Are these attractive valuations to buy in Applied Digital and Nebius and Iran? I mean, I don't know. I think a lot of the market right now is like Rocket Lab is not the most attractive valuation. Robinhood is not the most attractive valuation, even though Robinhood closed above 150 yesterday as well. They got a big price target from Needham to 170, so we'll talk more about that as well. But like, regardless, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. There are fund managers that need to chase. Only 30% of fund managers have hit their benchmark. And if you're a fund manager and you don't want to buy Nvidia, but you look at Iran, you think there's higher risk to reward, and you say, you know what, even after this run, I might as well jump in. That, along with general momentum from retail investors that think they've missed a lot of the AI data center computing trend, especially for these companies that completely pivoted from Bitcoin miners to now HPC plays. I mean, they're coming into the markets, and in a seasonally strong time for the broader markets, that's why you're seeing a lot of momentum here. I think even CleanSpark broke out last night to what, $20? CleanSpark 21. That's up 4.5%. Again, the stock was stuck at 10 for a year and a half while Bitcoin was going to the moon from 15 to 100K. And it took a data center pivot for people to even get excited about CleanSpark. So I don't know if every one of these data center pivots are going to work out. Bitfarms, CleanSpark, Iran, obviously some of them are probably better than others in terms of their capacity and how quick they're moving. Bitfarms crossing 4 this pre-market. But the point is, they're all working. And right now, momentum is on their side. And if they can continue to execute on earnings, and demand for AI compute is not slowing down. We got some big Microsoft news yesterday with Nvidia that we'll talk about as well. It just goes to show that if demand continues to outstrip supply, then you're going to get a lot more people that are excited about what's going on. So there you go. Nvidia, 193.50, and Iran, Applied Digital, all those companies are moving in the pre-markets. I almost bought contracts on the Giants last night. Almost. The score was 13-10, and they priced the contracts at 22 cents, even though the Giants were winning because they're 1-4 and the Eagles are 4-1. And I almost bought contracts on the Giants. And I didn't because I was like, well, the Eagles are a better team, right? But and then the Giants completely whooped the Eagles' ass. So I should have bought some contracts on them. But shout out to New York. Shout out to the Giants. It's a nice win last night. against the Eagles. Okay, so let's get into what happened with Nvidia, because Nvidia yesterday was a big deal. I think the reason they really got the price target increase, or the price increase, is because of the price target upgrade they got, which is from Cantor Fitzgerald. So for those that didn't see this, 240 to 300, and the key takeaway was Cantor said, this is not a bubble. Cantor said after hosting executives in NYC, Jensen, the CFO, and a few other executives, we are still in the early investment cycle. Put simply, Jensen and the team are as focused and competitive as ever. They are playing to win. We do not see a scenario where NVIDIA fails to secure at least 75% of the AI accelerator market over time. They also increased their EPS targets for this year and next year, or for 2026 and 2027, to $8 and $11. Those are both 50% higher than the street consensus. So if you put a 27 PE, which is a pretty reasonable forward price to earnings on a company like Nvidia, one could argue that actually in 2027, that PE would be closer to 35 or 40. You get a $300 stock price. And so at least some firms on Wall Street are starting to recognize that Jensen's not kidding around when he's talking about this AI revolution and this increase in CapEx. And the more and more deals that we see, the more and more people think, hey, this CapEx is likely going to continue. And that happened with a deal yesterday with Microsoft. Microsoft Azure rolled out its first major cluster of NVIDIA chips. I believe it's almost 300,000 GB300s that Nadella tweeted about. Here's the video of what he showed off in the data center. And again, when you have a Microsoft saying we need to contract with a Nebius because we still don't even have the ability to deploy all these GPUs within data centers, and we need partners to help us, that is where the argument for this industrial build-up for all the other smaller companies comes into place. And that's why you are getting a lot of excitement right here for NVIDIA. So, I mean, look, if you own NVIDIA, congratulations. If you own AMD, congratulations. Like, it's been such a long week that we forget. AMD, which is at 232 right now, hit 240 yesterday. Got the massive deal with OpenAI. I think that deal, along with the NVIDIA re-rating from Cantor Fitzgerald with some like real price target estimates based on EPS earnings for 2027, that has been a very big catalyst for the markets throughout the entire week. And that allowed the S&P to hit all-time highs and kind of begin to consolidate in the 670s, which is very, very exciting to get. But VRT, VST, all these companies that are associated in this ecosystem, I mean, yeah, it looks like they are not stopping because demand looks like it's not stopping. Grab and BMNR. I bought a little bit of more yesterday. I bought Grab at 614 yesterday, bought BMNR at 57.30. Nothing crazy, but just bought a little bit of the dip. I mean, look, for Grab, I have no idea why it took a 3% drop. Even I got right out of the root canal and I was like, what? What? So 640 at 929 and at 935, it's at like 610. The short interest on Grab did go up dramatically though yesterday. I think it went from like 168 million shares to 185 million shares. So the shorts obviously are upset that the stock is up 30% and, you know, it's up from the 470s. They were in control. They got out of control and now they're trying to manipulate it. I think Grab, you just got to be patient. You're going to need a good quarter to get the shorts to go away. That's going to take probably another month until we get the results out there. But look, for those that wanted a dip, I think this is your dip. Could it go below 6? Yeah, it's possible. Today's going to be very important price action to see if it can actually hold that $6 level. Again, I'm a heavy buyer under 6, and I'll throw a little bit at it if it's in that 610 to 620 range. But I think it's more the short float going up as much as it did. I didn't see anything fundamental yesterday that was affecting Grab. In terms of BMNR, Ethereum, right? Like Ethereum went from 4,700 to 43 at one point. Ethereum, yeah, 4,350. Yeah, Bitmine's going to go from 65 down, and it got all the way to like 56.50 was the lows yesterday. So for those that wanted a dip, a lot of people were asking. A lot of people wanted to buy at 63 because they thought the train was headed upwards. Ethereum takes a dip, Bitmine takes a dip, you get your opportunity. If you believe in Ethereum, these are the moments where I think you buy. If you really do believe Ethereum is going to make a move towards the end of next year. And that's why I think it's happening. I don't think it's because of the Carousel short report. I mean, again, their short report, I listened to their Twitter spaces. It was so lazy, just such a lazy short report. And they're not even bearish Ethereum. They just think that MNAV is going to collapse. And it's like the MNAV never got as high as MicroStrategy's. It's a pretty reasonable 1.4x. So the idea that's going to go below 1 while Ethereum's moving, which they believe Ethereum will move, I just don't think that's how it'll play out. Like, you're going to need to have a lot of the market just hate BMNR for the MNAV to not expand if Ethereum goes up. And so I don't think it's because of the Carousel short report. But nonetheless, Bitmine right there, 59.22, and that is slightly up. IONQ, $2 billion equity offering. Okay, that's some dilute. $2 billion is a lot. IONQ down 2%. I mean, it's crazy, dude. The $2 billion is a pretty hefty amount of debt offering. It's a $23 billion market cap. However, it's basically 8% of the market cap. I mean, stock market doesn't care. It's down 2%. IONQ was pushing 180 or $80 the other day. These quantum names have continued to hold on in the face of anything that would be bearish. IONQ right there is up 80% year to date. So you got a little bit of an offering right there. And a lot of companies are doing offerings, which I think is okay because their stock prices have gone up a lot. And if they have liquidity, they should be raising capital in a strategic way. But nonetheless, you got that one that is still going green even after that dilution. Okay, cool. So that's what we got with Nvidia. AMKR. So this is a name that I'm interested. I am buying more when the pre-market opens. So I bought 1,000 shares already. I gave you guys a little bit of the thesis. On Wednesday, I put up a one-pager. I'm just going to link this one-pager in the chat. I don't want to talk too much about it because we did an entire Twitter Spaces about it. So if you want to listen to that Twitter Spaces, it is on my Twitter. But I'll link this right here in the chat. Simply put, AMKR is a global leader in outsourced semiconductor assembly services, providing packaging and testing solutions for semiconductor devices. I'll put the link right here in the chat. So I bought 1,000 shares, $30.80. I think a bunch of you guys got a little bit below my average, and I'm probably going to buy another 1,000 shares when the market opens or later throughout the day. So, this $30 range is what I think is relatively reasonable. Even if, I think the stock's going to 50, 60 in the next, call it year. So 31, 32, I really don't care too much about the entry price. But the core thesis of this is pretty simple. American industrialization and onshoring of semiconductors is happening at scale, and Trump, Jensen, Apple, Tim Cook, all these guys are invested in making sure this happens, even for the sheer fact that, forget national security, they want to make sure Trump is happy. AMKR is one of the most important companies and one of the, quite frankly, only companies in OSAT that's actually able to get the job done. And, if you go through the thesis, you listen to the Twitter Space, there's a lot more that we talk about. Now, the financials, I also really like it. It trades at 1.15x sales. Average price target on the street is 26. So the street is not bearish, but they haven't re-rated the stock. I think it will go through a re-rating if it is able to double their revenues, which I think they can. Right now, they're doing 6.35 billion in revenues. Market cap is like 7.5 billion. At its core, this thing gets to like 12 to 13 billion in revenues. I think the stock, even if you keep the same multiple, gets to 55, 60, simply based on the idea that at the end of the day, there are not many packaging service companies for semiconductors in the United States. So Chris says, I bought AMKR 2 years ago. I just bought a little more. Yeah, look, this one is starting to seem really obvious to me. It is not an original idea by myself. It's from Stock Talk, who is one of the friends I'm running a show with on X. And look, he's a very, very good stock picker. He does a lot of research when it comes to these mid caps, small mid caps. And I'll just show one last thing on this. If you take a look at their latest press release, 4 people gave them quotes in the press release. One of them was Howard Lutnick, very important guy. The other guy was Apple's COO, very important guy. The other guy was Jensen Huang, kind of important. And then you had Jun He, the vice president of advanced packaging technology services at TSMC. If you go through Taiwan business news journals, they talk about this company ad nauseum. And one of the reasons for that is because there is a massive, massive partnership between TSMC and their Arizona fab, along with AMKR, which is literally across the street from TSMC's Arizona fab. In fact, on October 6th, they announced AMKR that they would increase their investment in the project from $2 billion to $7 billion, 2.3 million square foot manufacturing campuses in 2 phases, 750,000 square feet of clean room space, and 3,000 new jobs AMKR would generate. So very simple thesis. I think it's undervalued. I think semiconductors will re-rate, or if semiconductor demand is not going anywhere, the company will re-rate as one of the only companies in the United States helping with the onshoring for packaging for semiconductor and manufacturing devices. A lot of that has to do with what Apple and TSM are doing. And as a result, that's my idea. I think goal is 2,000 shares for me, and then I like the $45 leap in 2028. So that's probably how I'm going to size up the position, 2,000 shares, and then $45 in 2028. That's kind of how I would navigate it. NVIDIA right there, 193.50. S&P, that's flat. And then Tesla, that's up about 0.22% in the pre-markets, which is what we got right now. Nate says you buy this, but you don't buy Nebius. Nate, look, I love Nebius, but also, dude, Nebius has made a 5x move. Like, as much as I love Nebius, like, it's also not the best risk reward. AMKR is trading at 1.15 times sales. Nebius was trading like that at 20, and that's when you were on it, which I give you a lot of credit for, but I missed it. It is what it is. So I do think in this market, you want to protect capital, and a lot of the names that are high flying, as much as I respect them, including the names I love, like a Robinhood, I'm not buying more. Like, these names have moved aggressively. I would rather sit back and let them keep moving or let them consolidate. I don't want to chase. I don't think I need to chase. A lot of us don't. A lot of us are up triple digits this year. Why do we have to chase? Why do you have to try to get even more performance by chasing something and then take the risk? Versus finding some gems that are smaller and that should be able to move, if they are in the right theme. And the thematic of semiconductors and the AI CapEx spend is a massive theme. The question is, can you find gems in there. And hopefully AMKR could be one of the gems. But yes, I do think Nebius will do well. I think it will continue to grow. Nebius is probably going to 200 at one point. It's up a lot, you know? Yeah, Nate, are you buying Robinhood here at 150? Probably Robinhood's probably going to 200 too. You know, but it's like, no, because it's made a big move. And so a lot of those names, it's just tough to easily buy them. SMCI, I bought this one too yesterday. Jason wouldn't stop yapping to me about SMCI. I'm in the 60-90 spreads for 2027. This is more of me borrowing Jason's conviction. Chris and Jason are also pretty excited about this. Look, I think this one's also simple. SMCI, I don't love the company. I don't know every single thing about them. But if we're seeing this much demand for GPUs across the board, you're going to need server racks. And Dell kind of highlighted that by increasing their financial projections by double for EPS and revenue. SMCI should have a press release within the next minimum 3 months that says, hey, we are increasing revenue projections from like 25% to 37%, something crazy. You know, Dell went from 8 to 15. So you would imagine on SMCI scale, if they're growing 25, they go to 50. Like some resemblance of the same type of ecosystem, because they're, one could argue, even more important with their liquid cooling technology than Dell. So I'm in SMCI as well. A little bit of a trade on the call debit spread, 60-90 January 2027. And yeah, if it plays out, then SMCI hopefully shouldn't be too bad. But that's what we got for some of the new trades that I am in. All right, this bull market. Let's talk a little bit more about what's going on with this bull market. Folks, do you realize we are on the anniversary of this bull market? October 12th is when the market bottomed in 2022. And since then, it has been a wild ride. The craziest thing is if you've been on the sidelines for the past 3 years, I mean, it is really tough to be watching what has happened with a 89% gain since 2022. But I think for the majority of us, October 2022 is when we looked at our portfolios and shit hit the fan. And we just kept buying more. For me, it was more Palantir. And for everyone else, you know, Meta was at 88 at the time. I mean, it has been an incredible journey. Some historical stats on bull markets. The average bull market since 1950 tends to gain 192% in the last 5.5 years. We are 3 years into this, and we are 90% of the way, which means we have another 100% to go and another 2.5 years. By the way, if you believe we had a bear market in April, then if the clock resets, we're not even 1 year into this new bull market, as Tom Lee would say. So nonetheless, if it is, you know, 2-3 years in and we have 2 years left, and we still have a lot more room to go. Out of the past 7 bull markets that extended beyond year 3, all saw further gains the following year. So if we continue to have a bull market towards the end of 2025, 2026 should theoretically be good historically. And of the previous 10 bull markets, 7 of them did extend beyond 3 years. So you do have a lot of arguments for why this bull market is similar to other bull markets, and this bull market conveniently has a Fed that is now easing. Remember, the bull market over the past 3 years has happened with the Fed raising rates. We didn't start cutting rates until 2024 September. We didn't cut rates in 22. We didn't cut rates in 23. And October 2022 is when we started this bull market. So it's quite incredible. You've got a Fed easing cycle that's on the way for 2025, 26, and 27. And then you have earnings growth, which should be pretty gigantic, right? Like I'm expecting double-digit earnings growth across the board for Q3. We already have had some pretty good earnings across the board where we've seen Levi's, Applied Digital, Delta, all these companies yesterday had some pretty good earnings, and we're going to get more earnings starting next week. Delta and Pepsi, they absolutely crushed it. So look at Delta, beat by 13% on EPS, beat by 1% on revenue. Those 2 quarters in the row, they're back to green growth, EPS and revenue year over year, EPS up 14%, revenue up 4%. And then Pepsi, beat on revenue and then beat on EPS by 1%. So you're starting to see a lot of other companies, not just tech companies, that are putting up some pretty good earnings. APLD really crushed it. That's why that stock's moving 28% of the pre-markets. And if that can continue with the big guys, Nvidia, Amazon, Meta, Google, that's going to be really important for the health of this broader bull market. So very, very, very exciting. Again, it looks like the market is not necessarily slowing down. This is also with the government shutdown happening. Is there some froth in the market? Of course. I don't think one can argue there's not froth in the market. However, the excitement of earnings growth seems to be a lot more important than the froth, because if that froth goes to zero, that's not froth in Nvidia, that's not froth in Meta. So that froth going to zero, it might affect the market. It probably will affect the market, but will it destroy the market? Probably not. And I think that's why. Right. And here is what Mr. Tom Lee had to say yesterday about the state of the bull market that we're in right now.
Of the government shutdown, but we also know that the real powerful driver of the equity market and the economy has been AI, which is not affected by this slowdown. So I think stocks are in this sort of zigzag pattern, but given we're in that seasonal period from October to year end, and we think the S&P can get to at least 7,000. It has been, and we've seen it this week. These pullbacks get bought, so we could be weak today, and I think we could rally tomorrow. And in general, I'd still be bullish into year end.
Are we whistling past the graveyard, Tom, on anything that could be concerning to you? I see a story right in front of me from Axios mentioning a Moody's analysis. 22 states are in recession or close to it. There was that Carlisle independent survey the other day showing the labor market is much worse than expected. Gold's been going up. Some suggest that's de-risking from the U.S. AI bubble. You mentioned the shutdown. Are we complacent towards any significant risks that we might be missing?
Well, I do think markets are less skeptical than they were in April and even in August and September. And we can see this in both positioning and AAII. So I think it is fair to say that the markets have priced in more good news. So like the things you flagged can be worrisome. But what I'd point out is that I think the AI story is actually strengthening, Scott. From our conversations with both companies and investors, it actually seems like the payback for AI, whether it's applications or services or companies' actual ROI, actually has improved in the last quarter or so. So I think that's what's helping actually create demand for spending. So I think we may be underestimating the sort of profit creation coming from AI. And I think that's why there's still legs to that story. But you're right. On balance, the data is mixed and we don't really know because we don't have government data.
Yeah.
So even without the government data, as you can see, Tom Lee making the same argument that this is one of the most hated bull markets and that earnings growth should be enough to still support the excitement in the bull market. Even without the government shutdown, or even with the government shutdown, CPI, it was, I think Bloomberg reported yesterday, is still likely to come out. So the report was that officials at the BLS have tried to get some of the people that work at the BLS, specifically on CPI, to get them to produce the results, which should be coming out October 14th, if I'm not wrong. By the way, October 15th is when the first paycheck gets missed by government employees. So like theoretically, if we don't solve this by October 14th, that's where we're going to see a lot of pain. But that CPI is very, very important to get. And so it looks like we still will get CPI this week, even if the government continues to be shut down. By the way, Rocket Lab going for 71 in the pre-markets. And that's important because the Fed needs to look at what's happening with the data when it comes to CPI. But it does look like the cuts on October 29th are still going to happen because, based on the Fed talk that we got with the Fed minutes on Monday or on Tuesday, which is why the markets, I think, also made a move, is most of the Fed officials believe that monetary policy should continue to ease. There's a 94.6% chance we get those rate cuts in October. And if that continues in December, we got 2 more cuts, maybe 3, but at least if we get 2, that with earnings growth should be strong enough. So we're going to see how this ends up playing out. But nonetheless, it does look like the broader easing cycle of the Fed is not slowing down at all. Bull market stats outside of just performance. Take a look at this. I saw this yesterday, and this was pretty freaking incredible. Retail investors have bought $105 billion of stocks over the last month, the largest monthly purchase on record. It's pretty crazy, dude. It's pretty crazy. Triple V, thank you for the $200 super chat. Triple V, one of those retail investors who probably is contributing to the $105 billion of U.S. stocks that people have bought over the past month. This is not over year to date. This is in September alone. In fact, JP Morgan came out with a stat yesterday, and they said retail investors poured $7 billion into equities over the last week, which is a noticeable jump from the $5.3 billion average that is seen weekly over the past 2 months. So the past week for retail excitement into equities, this is either one of those things that makes you feel it's toppy because there's way too much excitement, or it makes you think, hey, retail is chasing towards the end of the year, and or retail is like transitioning. So some people might be selling XYZ to be able to buy something else. So even if they're taking profits on a name they have a lot of gains they might be continuing to put that money into the markets and something else. And so that might be a more strategic allocation from retail. But it's undeniable that there is a lot of money that is being spent. Now, this brings the total year-to-date purchases of $630 billion by retail. 2021, by the way, was $590 billion. So that is an increase of $40 billion year-to-date. Retail investors are now on track to buy $800 billion of stocks in 2025. ETF inflows are set to surpass $1.2 trillion by the end of the year. By 2024, end of year, it's about $1.1 trillion. So it looks like it's going to be a record year unless you get something to mess it up over the next couple months. You're going to see more money come into the ecosystem. And look, we are getting into a really strong earnings cycle. If that earnings cycle doesn't disappoint, I mean, there are still gems in this market that are going to get. I mean, Meta was below 700 a couple days ago, right? So I mean, you got a ton of retail investors that would love to get more exposure to Meta. Now it's back at 735. If retail investors came in and bought that dip at 690 and now it's at 730, there you go. You've got to bid on some of these stocks that are getting some love. Even PayPal, which has barely moved this year, is up 15% on the week, 76.36. I mean, you got gems that are undervalued now. Is PayPal going to get up to the 140s like some people are suggesting? I don't know. But is it undervalued? Yeah. Like, it's not that hard to see that it's undervalued. So the question becomes, does retail start allocating to some of these gems that are in the market? Does institutional money come in? The point is money's coming in. And if money's coming in, then it's hard to be that bearish. Money market inflows yesterday were $19.4 billion of an increase. So you still didn't get a net outflow from money market flows. You had $19.84 billion to $7.39 trillion total. Yet last week was $55 billion. So over the past 2 weeks, almost $80 billion coming into money market flows that are still almost $7.5 trillion on the sidelines. Imagine what happens when that money, even if a fraction of it comes from money market funds into the broader markets. I mean, that, again, continues to make it very, very exciting. And so we just have to see how this all plays out. Now, having said that, we talked ad nauseum on Wednesday about this meme stock ETF thing that's coming out. And look, it's very reminiscent of 2021. And my analysis on this is all of these meme stocks could go to zero, all the companies that are in this bucket that Roundhill came out with. And I don't think it would affect the market. So, if BM&R went to zero, it wouldn't affect the market as much as I love BM&R. If QBTS went to zero, if Open Door, Plug, Cypher, ASTS, which a lot of these names I really don't think are meme stocks. I think they're just like retail names that they threw into this bucket. But a lot of these names are under 10 billion in market cap, 20 billion at most, right? So if these names were to go to zero, it wipes out a lot of retail flows, but it does not stop Microsoft, Meta, or any of the big companies that matter. So in 2021, again, the reason this was really toppy was because the biggest companies in the world were, Meta was worth $1 trillion in 2021. It nowhere near deserved to be worth $1 trillion. Now one could argue Meta deserves to be worth 3.5 trillion if you give them a somewhat reasonable multiple compared to their forward EPS growth. So it's like, I don't think it is that scary to see this stuff. Am I investing in it? No. Will it get some inflows? Sure. But I don't think this is the barometer for how we discuss what's going on in this market. And as a result, I think that's why this market can continue. So that's what we got going on right there in terms of some of these retail stats as well. Benny says, where's the margin expansion coming from AMKR, 13% gross margin? So this is not a margin story for AMKR. This is a doubling of revenue story, in my opinion. And this is you're not really valuing it on PE basis. You're valuing it on a price of sales basis. So this is more so a question of, hey, if American onshoring is happening at scale, will this have the growth that is able to support that? Or is it obvious that they should be able to grow if American manufacturing is coming back, specifically for semiconductors? And that's where I think it is. Also, if you look at their PE, it's at 24 times. The industry average is at 35 times. So any level of margin enhancements should help AMKR. But yeah, again, for those that want to get the full thesis on it, the white paper, or not the white paper, the one pager, I put in the chat, and then the Twitter spaces I did, you guys can listen to it. It's a good 30-minute deep dive to understand it. But, I'm looking for more opportunities in this market. And for looking for those opportunities, you're not going to get everything you want, like amazing margins. But if you're going to get reasonable sales multiples, reasonable PEs, then you got to take a little bit of risk and assume, your imagination that some of these stocks can continue to grow. And that's what I think we can get for AMKR. Uber right there, 96.37. Roblox is slightly flat. ASTS trying to pass 90 in the pre-market. And MicroStrategy right there at 323. Bitcoin has been disappointing this week. Unfortunately, was not able to break through 126. Now back below 122. This one kind of messed up Coinbase and MicroStrategy moving this week, along with Ethereum, 47 back to 43. So it looks like some more patience is going to be involved there. I really don't think these names are getting to 212,000 by end of year. I'd be very happy if they did, but Ethereum more so like 6,000, 6,500 in my opinion. Bitcoin more like 140 to 145. If it blows through that with rate cuts and just more crypto excitement, that would be awesome. But if it doesn't, then I think that's okay. Okay, for those asking about VG, again, I do not know that much about this company, but they lost an arbitration case to BP. And Sachin tweeted about them. I'm going to try to read up. I mean, I found out this morning what's going on with VG, so I'll try to read up about it more before the market close so I can get some more details. But he says it's not good news. There's a material financial risk. VG could be liable for damages of $1 billion or more. It's uncapped. LNG deliveries to BP are ongoing under the existing contract. And the final damages and time frame, there's going to be a court case in 2026, introduce extended legal and financial risk. Also, this could be broader reputational or contractual risk to help with the funding for current or new projects that VG would get in the future. So Sachin he's heavy in this name. I mean, he's been in this name for a long time. So even if you guys have not heard from Chris and Matt on this, if you guys want someone who's an expert in oil and gas, which Sachin has been, doing for the past 30 years and is heavy in this stock, his take is that it's not good. Just point blank, it's not good. Now, does that mean you sell? I have no idea. I just don't know enough about this company. But it's down 20%, so the market's obviously not happy about it. The immediate reaction I have is that if the court case goes until 2026, I mean, yeah, this is not going to be fun. It's like Google, right? With that DOJ overhang, like you're going to have to deal with the sort of liability reputationally and then eventually financially of an overhang on the stock. And as a result, that's why it might not be the easiest buy the dip right here. APLD 3670, that's up 25%. That one's going green. And then Iran, again, I don't think there's a headline this morning, but Iran just defying expectations and continuing to move higher. I think it's up now 6x in 3 months. That's up 5.62% in the pre-markets. There was some Nvidia news last night with China. This has not been fully confirmed, but it looks like this was pretty bullish, and that's why Nvidia was green in the pre-markets as well. And the news was that China chips are now on the table. There's actually like a bullet point plan the Trump administration put out. Senate passes AI chip export limits on Nvidia, AMD to China. The U.S. Senate passed a provision requiring chip makers like Nvidia and AMD to prioritize orders from American customers over those from China. Yeah, so that was confirmed last night. And essentially, it was like this 12 bullet point plan that the Senate came out with. At its core, basically they're saying, hey, before you sell chips to China, you have to support American companies first, which, I mean, I think that goes without saying. So I don't think Jensen's going to have any issue with that. But that is what's helping Nvidia and AMD in the pre-markets. Also, the UAE, because I missed yesterday's show, that news came out 2 nights ago. That was right before Nvidia broke out to 195. The United States has approved several $1 billion worth of Nvidia chip exports to the United Arab Emirates, as per Bloomberg. And as a result, that also helped Nvidia stock price. So not only is China revenue looking like it's coming back on the table, again, it's not there yet, but it looks like it's a lot closer. Hopefully in the early parts of 2026, that China revenue will come back to AMD and Nvidia. But UAE revenue, which should be like to the tune of hundreds of billions. Right now, it's only a couple $1 billion that the Commerce Secretary Lutnick has approved. That should be a lot more in 2026. I think those two elements, along with just overall capex demand, that is why you got companies coming out at like Cantor Fitzgerald saying, "Hey, like we think they're going to do $11 of EPS in 2 years." And if that's the case, this price target should be closer to 300. So if that's the case, then Nvidia should continue to grow. And look, if Nvidia continues to grow, a Nebius should continue to grow. A CoreWeave should continue to grow. It goes back to the theme that all of these data center plays should have more growth, even with the level of excitement they've seen, if that capex demand is not slowing. Now, do you buy these names at these elevated multiples into this momentum? That's a personal decision. And I don't know. I think there might be better opportunities into 2026, but does that have to happen towards the end of the year where seasonally the tailwind is that things go higher? Probably not, which means it might take a little bit more time to get there. Yeah, Qatar and Saudi Arabia, we're part of that summit as well. I mean, they're going to be buying hundreds of billions of dollars. I mean, they committed in total $2.5 trillion worth of investments into AI. You would imagine a decent chunk of that is going to be towards GPUs for NVIDIA and AMD. And that should be the bull case for those companies. Amit, how bad was the dentist? I need to get a root canal too, but I'm scared. I got a lot of people messaging me saying that like they're scared of root canals. And like, it was fine. Like it was no big deal. Like, I mean, it stung a little bit in different, but it was guys, it's a root canal. It's like it's not like they're pulling out your teeth. So it's like it really wasn't that scary. It was done in an hour and we were good to go. So if you need to get a root canal, again, I'm not a medical expert, but like it's probably important to get rid of the bad roots in your teeth, especially if they're decaying at a hard level. But yeah, it was fine. It's not that big of a deal. But I was drugged up, and so when I got home, I knocked out, and I woke up at like 6 p.m. and I was like, oh, that was done for the day. Last thing, real quick, before the market opens, we got 4 minutes. Figure. Has anyone seen this video? I mean, this thing was crazy yesterday. Absolutely crazy. They introduced Figure 03. That's their latest robot. It's a 6-minute video, and it's very, very bullish Nvidia, but it's also bullish the entire semiconductor ecosystem because these robots, if there's going to be billions of them walking the face of the planet one day, you're going to need a lot more training, which is bullish, just language models in general. In this case, they use like video action language models, not just large language models for text. And you're going to need a lot of manufacturing. So a lot of the companies that are pivotal towards NVIDIA's supply chain probably are going to play a massive role in building out these billions of robots that Aptronic, that Figure, that Optimus are going to try to deploy. And look, I know people talk a lot of shit about Figure and they don't necessarily like the CEO or whatever. This was one of those videos that I think shut up a lot of people yesterday. Because look, they've got a big execution risk. They've got to manufacture at scale. They've got to get revenue. Like all the stuff that a company has to do to succeed has to be there. But does it deserve a $40 billion valuation? That's subjective. Seeing a video like that, I had a lot of people yesterday ask, how can we buy at whatever valuation? Because just quite frankly, Tesla hasn't put out anything like this. Neither has Aptronic, neither have any of the other robotic companies that are out there. And again, we need, even if you're not a fan of Figure or humanoid robotics, if you want this AI revolution to continue, AKA you want the bull market to continue, you need more verticals. It can't just be a chatbot. We need self-driving. By the way, FSD really pissed me off yesterday. I got the newest version of FSD. There's a regular route from my parents' house to my apartment. It went through like 3 different exits to end up coming to the same route and made me pay like $30 in tolls going through 3 different exits just to get back to the same exit that you usually have to take. It really did piss me off. I don't know what the heck FSD was smoking yesterday, but it was not good. So like the point is we need more verticals. We need FSD. We need robots. We need personal assistants. We need a lot of different things to happen for this AI revolution to continue. And if it doesn't, then, what's the point of AI? You need to see more use cases, and robots might be one of the biggest use cases. So I was really excited to see this video from Figure. Hopefully we get more videos like this. Hopefully we get eventual deals and partnerships with the biggest companies in the world utilizing these robots. But we kind of have to, because if we don't, then, people are going to be wondering, where is the ROI coming from AI? And hopefully part of it is on robots. But that's what we got. That's what we got from Figure. Yeah, dude, FSD really made me mad. Like it took me like an hour and a half to get home. It usually takes 30 minutes. And I was like, what is going on? Like, why is it just like it's taking an exit and I'm looking at the map and it's like doing all these circles just to get back on the same route. And I'm like, did they take some drugs? Are they as high as me from the dentist? Like, what the heck's going on? So yeah, I just updated it to the, I think it's like 13.9. So I got to see, maybe there's some setting that's off right there, but all right, there you go. We got, yeah, I basically almost have to drive there myself. It like defeated the point of even paying for it. All right, here we go. 30 seconds. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We got a market open very soon. Again, thank you to everyone who reached out. I had a lot of people just reach out and say, hopefully I'm doing well from the root canal. And yeah, I'm doing good. My teeth are a lot better. It was like unbearable pain on Sunday. And so it's a lot better. Feeling good. Happy to be back in the market open. Sam did a great job yesterday. I caught a little bit of Sam's stream. So for everyone who's out there supporting Sam, that was awesome. And I'm happy this entire community got to keep this going. All right, here we go. It is Friday, October 10th, 9:30 a.m. The stock market is now open. All right, wake your ass up. Let's get into it on this Friday morning. Palantir, 186, that goes green. 186.05, that's up about 0.31% on the day. Hoodie, 153.18. Wow, Hoodie actually trying to make a big move right here. They got an upgrade to 170. We'll talk more about that upgrade yesterday, but it was a pretty bullish upgrade. 153.06 on Hoodie. AMD, that's down 232. SoFi, that's green. Let's see if SoFi can finally break above 30. That would be very nice to see if it can get back there. Rocket Lab, massive move, 71.95. My goodness. It hit 70 in the pre-markets. Now it just hit 72, right there below 72. They got a deal with Japan this morning. That's like 3 deals in the past 2 weeks, and I guess the market loves it. 71.95. Congratulations if you have Rocket Lab, and shout out to Matt and Vince. They got me onto this one. 72.15. Look at that, busting right through the 72s. How about ASTS? Is that at 90? That's at 89.39, trying to get right back to that $90 range. Nvidia, 192.85. It did hit 195, so let's see if we can get back there as well. Grab 608. Again, I think it's a little bit more manipulation by the shorts right now that are hurting the stock before we get into earnings. But that one is down about 3% since yesterday. Salesforce is up a little bit. Meta's up a little bit. Amazon did break through 225 yesterday, 227. Nice to see Amazon getting to that 227 level, hopefully going up to the 230s. Bitcoin just below 122. PayPal, that's down about 0.5%. Reddit, that's also up a little bit after getting a downgrade a couple days ago. HIMS, 58.44, trying to get back to 60. MicroStrategy, that's up 0.5%. Palo Alto, that's up 0.32. CrowdStrike, 1%, 514. Shout out to Applied Digital. Again, massive move, up 22%. Down a little bit from where it was in the pre-markets, but they crushed earnings. And as a result of being one of the smaller players in the data center space, but one of the players that is showing earnings growth, they are getting a bid. And as you can see, that stock is making a move. CoreWeave as well. Wow, CoreWeave 150. CoreWeave 150. IREN's at 67.54. That's another 5% for those guys. Nebius probably 135. Nebius 134.90. Slightly down. VG, again, they lost that case to BP. That's why this one is taking a hit right there. 22% down, 978 for VG. DoorDash, that's slightly down. Delta, they had a great earnings. That's at 60, showing the consumer is willing to travel, which is good. So hopefully the other airlines come in with some strong demand. Google right there, that's at 242. And then Hoodie at 153. Hive, another data center play. That one is up 8% on the day. CleanSpark, that one is up 5.8%. Again, a lot of these names just not showing any signs of weakness. And Bitfarms, that's up 12% on the day. SoFi, finally, 29. Took a while to get back to 29. Last time we were here, folks, was September 24th. So it's been almost 3 weeks to trying to get back here. And it gave 3 weeks of a good dip opportunity. But now let's see if we can break through 30 right here. Nice green candle, up 2.2%, 29.09 on SoFi. Big Bear AI, is that running? Let's see. That is up 4.5%. How about that meme stock ETF, ticker symbol meme? That's flat, or that's actually up 2%. D-Wave, the quantum stocks, those are slightly green. They are holding on. IONQ did do some dilution today to the tune of $2 billion, but stock doesn't really care too much about it. IONQ down about 3%. Rocket Lab, are we still moving? Rocket Lab, wow, 73. Dude. I don't know if this is institutions. I don't know if this is retail. I don't know who's coming in. I do think Rocket Lab is expensive. I mean, the price of sales is basically similar to the stock price right now. But regardless, you got the market that's pretty damn excited. Yeah, Rocket Lab's price of sales is at 70. Stocks is at 73. It's up 10% of the day. I think the market's buying potential. I don't think it's a sell either. Like, do I think it's a buy? I mean, not really. Do I think it's a sell? No, because at the end of the day, there's not that many companies that can come up with the deal flow that Rocket Lab's coming up with and actually have the passionate investor base that believes so much in Peter Beck. I mean, he really is a man of the people in terms of how he communicates with retail investors. So 72.83, that's up 9.7%. Kind of looks like it wants to push 75, so we'll keep an eye on that. But that one continues to move. And then ASTS, this entire sector not stopping, 89.75 on ASTS. Did Marathon at all pivot to data centers in any capacity? I have not looked into it. I feel like they're one of the only Bitcoin miners that hasn't done that. But given they're up 5.6%, I feel like they might have announced something where they are looking into data centers. That one as well is moving along with these other names. Nebius, are we at all-time highs? Nebius right there, 136. There you go. All-time highs on Nebius. Yes, they did. Okay, well, that's enough. Galaxy, CleanSpark, Bitfarms, all these guys. Galaxy up another 4% on the day. That pivot is enough to get the market excited. Cypher also had a massive move 2 days ago. Cypher, wow, another 10% on Cypher. Goodness gracious, bro. TeraWolf, that's probably moving with it as well. 9%. Let's make a watch list real quick on that. So BTC miners turned data centers. I mean, all of these guys. IREN, that's green. Cypher, that's green. CleanSpark, that's green. TeraWolf and CleanSpark, or TeraWolf and Cypher also got investments from Google, which helps them out. Hive, Bitfarms, Marathon. I mean, it is quite incredible. Now, will all of these win? I don't know, but if the demand is that strong, IREN right there pushing 69 for data centers in general. yeah, they're likely all going to have the ability to execute on that demand. And if they execute properly, right there is up 4%. A lot of them should continue to get better contracts, which is what's helping. Rock Lab, are we at 30 or 73? I was looking at a different stock. 30, Rock Lab right there, 73.50. It pushed 72.40 now, so it's trying to break through that 73 level. Nvidia slightly going green. And APLD is not stopping. 37.55. That's up 28%. Dude, this is pretty incredible. Materials MP, that's up another 2.6. Lithium Americas, that is also up 2.2. These are the Trump names. TMQ was another one that was up 300% this week based on Trump wanting to make an investment. That's up 6% on the day. SLNH, that's another one. Solana Holdings, that's up about 3% of the day. TSSI, that's one of the subcontractors for Dell. That's why that's getting some love. By the way, Oklo passing 140. TSSI is up 4.3%. The nuclear names not slowing down either. Oklo, there you go, 140.83. That is up 2%. And then Nebius, are we passing 135? We have passed 135, hit 137, just below that right now. Now, again, I for all these companies, Bitcoin miners turn data centers, I think the broader question is going to be, and you know, Mike Novogratz basically said this on the show last week. He was just like, hey, like the execution by these guys is going to be the most important. And you've got to trust that management can really build the licensing facilities that are actually not only matching the demand, but are able to be sustainable with the demand. And that's a question of pure execution. Like they have the facilities, which is why they're getting the contracts. Can they execute at scale? But it looks like the market is just making a universal bet that all of these guys will execute because there's just so much demand that they have no choice but to execute. CoreWeave trying to get its way to 150 right here. Again, they got that deal with Meta back in what, October 3rd, 14.2 billion. Tesla, by the way, 441. Tesla right there. It's up 1.2% as well. Where's Bitmine? Are we at 60 on Bitmine? We are 60.24. That's up 1.2. Up 1.2. That's getting some green. Path, I don't know what happened yesterday. It went up to 19 bucks. Now it's at 18. This has been a ridiculous stock all week, basically from 12 to 18. Lots of volume. It's been dead for 3 years. Ended up coming back. They had a good earnings, but I feel like there was a different headline that was helping it get some love. And that's why you're seeing it make a move. Applied Digital right there, 36.50. SoFi, very close to breaking through 29.50. And then if it does, maybe 29.30 or 30.30, which is the actual all-time high, is in play. USAR, how's that one doing? 33.12. That's up 6.53% as well. Rare Earth Minerals, that one is green. Okay, AMKR, I'm going to basically buy my last 1,000 shares at the same price I bought it in pre-markets, 30.85. So again, I did a deep dive on this on Twitter. The recorded spaces is there. I'm going to buy 1,000 shares right here. Okay, there we go, 30.84. My average on this is $30.82. I put out a one-pager. I'll link it again in the chat for anyone who wants to read it. We did a deep dive for 30 minutes on X. Mid-cap, semiconductor, American onshore. That's the thesis. And yeah, it's not some massive position, but I do think, you know, in 6 to 8 months, this thing can get back to 50 if it gets re-rated. And so we got 2,000 shares of AMKR locked in. Google right there, 243, grab at 610. Grab goes below 6. I mean, at this point, they might as well take grab below 6. I bought a little bit yesterday at 610, but this one really needs to actually go down below 6 for me to buy heavier. So if they're going to take it down, they might as well take it down. But grab right there at 610. SoFi right there, 29.13. Then the S&P. S&P getting ready to make all-time highs, 673.45. 673.45. Ubari says, I've been in AMKR since 14.95. Yeah, and you know, it's only up 17% year to date. So it hasn't had this massive move like a lot of the semiconductor names have. And it's trading at 1.15 times sales. So it's one you got to be patient with. But I do think with the upcoming contracts with Apple and TSM, it should get re-rated pretty easily over the next 6 to 8 months. But we're going to see. We're going to see how it plays out. It's one of my first kind of SMID caps that I'm getting into. And I don't know, I just like the thesis. I like that American manufacturing doesn't have that many players in the semiconductor space. And Trump is dedicated to making sure that we actually have these players win. And it seems like they could be a beneficiary. Palo Alto right there, 216. That's green. ASTS, 87.19. That's losing 90. Hood goes green. Okay, there you go. 150. Well, it's just below 153, but that's still up. And then BitMine trying to get here to 61, which is also green. Kratos had a big week. A lot of people got excited about it. They got a deal with the Department of War, if I'm not wrong. And that's why this one had a really good week. I forgot the amount of the contract, but yeah, I mean, past month is up 50%, dude. A lot of these drone names, along with Ondas, Kratos, all of them picked up a ton of excitement over the past couple of weeks. Ondas right here down about 2.24% in the pre-markets. Dragos, thank you for the $500 super chat. That is very, very, very kind. Thank you, brother, for the $500 super chat. Dragos, for those that don't know, has been in Palantir since 16. I think he found my live stream randomly one day, the day before Palantir earnings Q4 2023 or Q4 2023 but it was in February, so it was basically like in the beginning of 2024. And he bought Palantir and he never looked back. So thank you, Dragos. Appreciate it, brother. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being so kind with the super chat. Congrats on all-time highs. Also, Dragos is heavy in Iran as well. So he's been in this bad boy, I think, since like $20-30. And this one has moved massively. 68.40 right there on Iran. That's up 7% on the day. Palantir right there, still holding the 185s as well. I also think Dragos is an IONQ, if I'm not wrong. I think he's been in this thing since like $12 or something. So again, retail investors, some of these names have just exploded this year. And if you've been in early, you kind of just have to sit back and let the thesis play out. And they played out pretty well. So not too bad. Rocket Lab, did we break 73? Did we break 73? We did not yet. 73.50, we did not. 71.30. It's giving up a little bit of that momentum from 73. But you're just below on those levels. Yeah, Dragos is in everything that goes up. I was like, bro, are you in IONQ? He's like, yeah. I was like, are you in Iran? He's like, yeah. He's heavy in Hood too. He got into Hood early, I think at like $30-40. So he's had a pretty awesome year. Okay, let's see some of the other headlines that we've got going on. By the way, fear and greed, dude. Take a look at fear and greed. Could anyone believe we're at neutral? Like, does anyone actually believe we're at neutral with seeing all these Bitcoin miners go up 7% every day this week? We're in neutral. We're in freaking neutral. I mean, and look, fear and greed index, it's been relatively accurate over the past 10 years. If you just put the S&P on top of the fear and greed index, like you tend to see when you get to extreme greed, we sell off. When you get to extreme fear, we go up. And so if we're in neutral, I mean, we just might have some more excitement to go towards the end of the year, which would end up being very, very strong for the broader markets. Nvidia right there trying to break through 193 again, got to 193.6 today. SoFi, 29.50. That's bullish. 29.50 is a big one. Let me check resistance at 30 and see if we can get there. I'm not in P-Lab. I like the thesis on that, but I'm not in it. AMKR to me is a little bit more attractive. Both of them kind of the same thesis around semiconductor onshoring in the United States. But I'm not in P-Lab. Also, you know, the other reason I wanted to buy AMKR is because I really do want to start diversifying some of the names that I'm in. I know we talk a lot about the core names, but 2026, one of my main goals is like to find at least 10 to 15 stocks that even if you throw like $1,000 at them, just to get better as a stock picker, can you find names that are not the most obvious names that are out there, like the Rocket Labs, the SoFis, et cetera, which are amazing names and deserve coverage. But also it's like, you know, to improve as a stock picker, you got to find other names that are out there. And, you know, you got to do a lot of research to find those names. So AMKR to me over the past couple of days just seems obvious, but it's kind of a challenge to me as well to see if I can find different names that are there. SoFi 29.60. I'm trying to find resistance at 30. My Robinhood's not really showing me the order book. It's being a little laggy right here, but it's still moving. 29.65 is what we got on SoFi. S&P right there, 673.70. That one is still trying to make a move. Thoughts on Zeta? I have a couple friends that love this name. Look, Zeta's cool. I don't understand that much about their business as a advertising data analytics play, but they just had some conference yesterday. Serena Williams was at the conference. Like they did some big show or something. I got to do a lot more DD on Zeta. A lot more DD on it. Year to date, it's up 8%. It trades at 20x EBITDA when I was looking at some of the financials last week. The average stock in their place trades at like 50x EBITDA. So you could definitely say that it's not like the most expensive player in advertising analytics. And they do have a bit of a retail following on X if you search the name. I just haven't done enough DD to get super excited about it. Marvell, what do we have on Marvell? That one's been moving, 93.48. That's up 3.5%. And then Hoodie, 153. Okay, so the upgrade we got yesterday from Needham was from 130 to 170 on Hoodie. And basically, the argument that Needham made was very simple. They're like, hey, we are increasing our EPS targets by 27% for next quarter and adjusted EBITDA by 10%. It's a massive move against consensus estimates. And they also think Robinhood's going to enter new verticals and expand growth opportunities in 2026. So for them, they're like, hey, we think the growth's not stopping. We think they're going to have new verticals, and we think the streets are vastly underestimating how strong Q3 is going to be. And as a result, you're getting a Robinhood that's potentially starting to normalize over 150, which is exciting to see. Applied Digital, wow, 26% move, 37.90. That's moving on. By the way, for those that were in LEU, Centrus Energy, that's up another 7%, or Energy Fuels. I mean, these nuclear names, I missed it this year. I really missed it this year, but these nuclear names have been phenomenal. And it doesn't look like, I don't know if they're the best buys right now, but these stocks were trading at $5-6. You know, now they're in the 20s. And, you know, Oklo is like the real outlier here that went from 6 to 160. But a lot of these names, I mean, Trump banged the table that nuclear energy is what he cares about with executive orders. And you kind of just have to follow this stuff. So for those that were in these names, congratulations, because they've done incredibly well. Even Intel, 38.74, hit 39.65 today. Intel's up 80% year to date. That one continuing to make a very big move. Okay, Ferrari went down yesterday because they said they're not focusing on EVs anymore. It went from 480 to 405. I don't know why that was a reason why the stock tanked as hard as they tanked, but I kind of think it's a good thing Ferrari's not focused on electric vehicles anymore. But yeah, that one took a nasty hit. We haven't seen Ferrari take a 15% hit like that in a while. But that one was also down. Kratos still going. That one's seeing some more momentum. Tesla right there, 438. Nvidia back to 193. Kratos up 3.3%. Palantir 186. SoFi, she's trying. She is trying. Robinhood's not showing me the order book flow. Is it just for SoFi or is it for other stocks? Let me see. It's for every stock. They're not showing the order book flow. They might be having a data feed issue. So I can't see resistance right here, but SoFi right there, 29.64. NKLR, that's Oklo's competitor. Yeah, I mean, this is another nuclear name that's out there. Did they just go public? NKLR. I think they might have just gone public right here. But you're seeing a lot of these nuclear names start to get some more excitement. And, there's a reason that they're seeing demand. CrowdStrike right there, that's up 1.3. Big Bear AI, that's up 8%. Eli Lilly, 855. That is also green. A couple people are tweeting they're having issues with Robinhood app today. Yeah, dude, I'm not going to lie. This week was not a good look for Hood. I mean, messing up the day of the AMD surge was just like not a good thing. And one thing I will say is, look, I would like some more transparency from Robinhood as well. Like, what happened? Because they put out some like basic tweet of like, hey, we had some issues, but we're back to normal. It's like, okay, but what were the issues? Like, was it an internal thing? Did you guys actually, can you blame, a service provider that wouldn't let you operate? Was it GCP? Was it AWS? Like, I think some clarity on that would be important. Just because when you mess up trust with people, it's not a good thing. Like people easily leave and they're like, all right, I can't trust you guys, I'm out. So personally, I would like a little bit more transparency on how exactly that happened on Monday. S&P right there, 673.08. That's still holding up. And then Nebius right here, 136. Let me see if we get any macro data this morning. Gold and silver, by the way, what the heck is going on with those guys? I think they finally took a breather. Oh, we get consumer sentiment at 10 a.m. Okay, so we'll look at consumer sentiment. I think they finally took a breather last night, right? Gold, no, it's back up at 4,000. It was at 39.50 last night. So I saw it was down like 1.3%. Silver is back at 45. This did break 50 yesterday. It's almost like they're not slowing down either. It's almost like they are not slowing down either with gold and silver. Fidelity is having issues this morning. That is the one saving grace for Robinhood's issues this week. It wasn't just Robinhood. It was Fidelity, Webull, IBKR. If it was just Robinhood, then I think people would really want to know what the hell happened. But it seems, I think it was a data provider issue to all the brokerages, which is kind of what messed up a lot of them being able to show some of these feeds. Or it might have been a cloud service provider that all the brokerages use that also messed up. Like if all of them are on GCP and then something happened with GCP, that could be an issue. So it seems like this week affected a lot of them. Microsoft right there at 522. Again, Microsoft said they are unveiling a brand new data center last night with a couple thousand more NVIDIA GB300s. Nadella tweeted a video of it. I mean, it just does not look like the deployment of those GPUs are slowing down. And that is creating a tailwind for a lot of these names. VIX right here, slightly flat. BABA, that's down 1.5. BABA, 190 to 170. I think it's pretty healthy. I don't know if it's an easy buy the dip, but I do think it's healthy for some of those China names to take a break. Then Tesla, 436. The one page on AMKR, I'm linking it right here in the chat. You guys can take a look right there. I mean, look, if you don't want to buy at these levels, selling puts on it also. I mean, it doesn't have the best options premium either. So it's not really a stock to wheel. It's more like a buy and hold, in my opinion. But you can definitely sell puts on it if you want to get assigned at a lower price if it gets there. Corey right there, 150. There you go. Last time it hit 150 was right before earnings. Then it dumped after earnings, like a legit dump, all the way to 97. And then the insiders sold the next day because their lockup period ended. So it kind of hurt it even more. And then it got a bunch of deals over the past couple of weeks. And now it's back up. By the way, Oracle, I mean, the other controversy this week was that Oracle's gross margins were horrible, yada, yada, and that they can't make any money off GPUs, fell to 270, back to 300. I mean, market's kind of scoffing at a lot of those reports because A, they don't have the accurate data. B, that's not enough because of margin compression in the early days of setting up data centers to be able to say, okay, AI is dead. Like it's just a lot of these narratives that are trying to kill the overall thesis, not fully there. It's not fully there. Rubric 87, that one made a nice recovery as well from 75 to 87. That got some green. And that is moving on. CBS says lowering pharmaceutical prices and a new most favored nation deal is the topic of Trump's 5 p.m. Oval announcement today. All right, so it looks like pharmaceuticals will continue to be in the news. Pfizer right there at 25.19. Rocket Lab back to 73. Rocket Lab 72.94. Trying to get back to 73. Then SoFi very close to breaking through 30s right here. 29.40. Trying to get back above that. AWS just increased Blackwell rental prices, and that was why Amazon, I think, finally broke out from 220 on Tuesday. 227 right here. Does it revisit below 220? I mean, maybe. We're going to have to see. Amazon put up a decent earnings. If they don't, then there's, not that many catalysts towards the end of the year for Amazon. So I think for the Max 7, Amazon's going to have the most important earnings. I mean, Nvidia, I think we all know is going to do well. And I think the analysts are more tame on their expectations because they know that the China revenue is not coming back this quarter. But Amazon's the one that's, barely up here to date. So that one I definitely think will matter. Tesla right there at 437. VRT and VST, again, data center plays that really do matter when it comes to making sure these GPUs are effectively deployed. 179 on Vertiv, that's up 6%. And then VST Vista is slightly flat. VRT year to date, it had a massive 2024. It's up 51% this year. Not too bad. If Amazon shows 20% AWS growth, we're going to moon. Yeah, it was 17 last quarter. Even if they guide for it, even if they don't show it, but they guide for 2026, I feel like that would be exciting. By the way, speaking of AI, take a look at Gemini stats. 1 billion visits for the first time in September of 2025. This is up 287% year over year and 46% month over month. September 24 had 274 million visits. September 2025, 1 billion visits. So you're seeing more and more and more excitement around these AI products. And that leads to this chart. Compute demand is growing twice as fast as chip efficiency. AI compute demand is now growing at over 2 times the rate of Moore's laws, creating a massive shortage. Just to meet current demand, if you take a look at the trajectory of where this is going, 500 billion must be invested per year in data centers until 2030, which, by the way, is pretty much exactly what Jensen said. He said 300 to 450 billion over the next few years, which would equate to he said 3 to 4 trillion by the end of 2030, which, if you do the math, ends up coming up to that 500 billion per year. And the street has them at like 290 billion or something. That's the consensus estimate. That estimate is just way too low compared to the level of demand that is outstripping the necessity for chip efficiency to actually match that demand. If we want GPT-15, it's going to have to be way better, which means it's going to need way better chips. And that is very bullish NVIDIA, along with AMD. Semi-analysis, Dylan Patel also reaffirmed that Google is planning to seal their TPU starting next year. Yeah, Google and Amazon really do have a bit of an advantage right here because, Amazon with Trainium, Google with their TPUs, and that's not bearish NVIDIA, but that is like, hey, pretty bullish Google, Amazon if they're working on their own stuff. And that's why, from the people that I've heard talk about Gemini 2.5, it's like it is the best model in the enterprise so far. It's far better than everything else. Consumer models have been GPT-5 kind of taking the cake, especially with coding. But in the enterprise, it looks like Gemini 2.5 is kind of running away with it. It seems like ChatGPT is running away with the consumer model with 800 million weekly users, and Gemini is doing very, very well in the enterprise. Circle right there, that's up 3% of the day, 155. Where is BMNR? Are we below 60? We are below 60, 58.69. I bought a little bit more at 57.30 yesterday. Again, if ETH kind of bottoms out here, I think this 55 to 60 range is like a buy zone. But if ETH collapses below 4,000, we're probably going back to the low 50s. And so we are going to see. Sunrise says, my girlfriend yesterday said, I'll just ask ChatGPT like 10 times per day, multiply that demand by people on Earth. Yeah. I mean, dude, my mom is using ChatGPT for everything. My sister uses it for everything. Like, it's pretty. My dad my dad uses it here and there. He hasn't become an active user, but eventually he will too. People need information. They need information at scale. I was talking to someone yesterday who does stock market research, and he pays for the $200 a month version of ChatGPT Plus. And he's like, dude, this is the best LLM for stock market research. He's like, I give it a very complicated prompt. I let it think for like 30 minutes, and it comes back with some of the most sophisticated analysis that really helps me double down on my research when I look at stocks. And hopefully Robinhood Legend has something similar to that when they come out with Cortex. But there's a lot of different use cases across the board. Rocket Lab right there, 72.33. That continues to go green. Bitfarms, is that holding up? That is, wow, 20% on Bitfarms. My goodness. Iren is also moving. 69.14. Looks like that one wants $70. There was some news on Orbs today. There was a headline. Orbs expanding its strategic vision into the enterprise. Company announces new initiative to bring authentication to the enterprise, solving trust and verification at scale. So that is the headline this morning. Is the stock moving? Again, I'm not in Orbs, but yeah, wow, 23% move. All right. So I guess they have 17 million users that have been verified via the biometric scanning. If they bring it to the enterprise, I mean, that could bring up a lot more users pretty soon. And that could be helping as well. Tanner says, Amit, let's talk Grab. Yes, Tanner, we have to do the Grab thesis. I think we could do it today, Tanner. I think we have time after the market open. I think me and Tanner can record this Grab video for everybody, and he can post it on his channel so people can get that thesis. S&P right there, 673. NVIDIA, 194. And then Hoodie, 152. We get consumer confidence in about 1 minute. So we should be getting it in a second. We'll see if it ends up moving the market. Again, usually they survey like 300 people, so it's not the biggest deal in the world. But we'll see what it looks like. The street is expecting consumer confidence scale 55.1. 5-year inflation expectation, street wants 3.7. Overall, 4.7 inflation expectations. So we'll see what these numbers look like. Audio, okay, hold on. It's freaking StreamYard. It's like, it's not my mic. Oh. It should fix. Let me know if it's not good. Robin right there, 152. Okay, so we should be getting that data in a second. All right, here we go. 55 is what we've got. 55 on consumer sentiment. Inflation expectations, that one's still coming in. Preliminary 51.2 versus 51.7. And then current conditions 61.7, or 61 versus 60.4. 4.6. Oh, that's good. Inflation expectations 4.6 versus 4.7. And then 5-year inflation expectations 3.7 versus 3.7. That's actually really decent across the board. S&P should like that. Yeah, you got a green candle right there, 672.88. So slight beat on the actual consumer sentiment at 55, and then 3.7 versus 3.7. 5-year expectation for 3. Dude, I mean, inflation at 3.7 in 5 years. Hopefully not. Hopefully we get a bit more deflation from there, but still, that's what was expected. At 4.6 versus 4.7 for October, which is also pretty good. We don't like it now. Oh, you're right. We don't like it. We had a little green candle, and then we went red. A little green candle, then we went red. Let's get a little bit more coverage on this.
55.0 on headline, a bit better than expectations, very close sequentially to the 55.1 in the rearview mirror for our September final read. And that compares, well, 55.0, you'd have to go back to May of this year to find a lower number. Current conditions, pretty juicy here. 61.0, better than expected, sequentially higher than 60.4. If we look at expectations, 51.2, a little bit of a disappointment in both directions, less than expected, less than 51.7 in the rearview mirror. You have to go to May of this year to find a lower number. Now, the inflation numbers, 4.6 on 1 year, that's 1/10 less than we're expecting and less than the 4.7 in the rearview mirror. 4.6 will be the lowest read going back to February when we were at 4.3. And finally, 5 to 10-year inflation stays at 3.7, both matching expectations and in the rearview mirror. To find a lower number, you'd have to go back to August at 3.5 to find a higher number. You're in June at 4.0 to give you some context there. Very quickly, the government shutdown has caused us not to see construction spending, 2 jobless claims, factory orders, September jobs report, wholesale inventories and sales. However, maybe CPI on Wednesday, scheduled at least the 15th of October. It may be released. I'm not sure if that's going to be the day. Think COLA here in terms of the reason why. And finally, on the week, 409 is current 10-year. It settled at 412 last week, down 3 basis points. David.
All right. So market doesn't fully love it. Let me know if the mic is good right now. If not, I will completely switch this mic. But I think it should be okay. Yeah, I mean, look, those aren't horrible numbers. You got a little bit of a red candle here, but it's nothing that aggressive on the S&P. 672.50 is what we're looking at. The 10 years up a little bit, but not. No, 10 years actually down. Again, the weakness in the labor market, or the perceived weakness in the labor market, because we unfortunately don't have the data because of the shutdown, is I think also what's getting the market to get a bit more like, hey, maybe we should just not fight the trend of more rate cuts. But none of this consumer data is bearish. At least it doesn't look super bearish from what we're seeing. Oh, we got Gabrielle Santos. She's on. Let's see what she's got to say. She's one of my favorite analysts from JP Morgan. Let's get her thoughts on the market. Rocket Lab, are we still above 73? Rocket Lab just below it, and Iran breaking through 70. Broke through 70, folks. 69.83, up 9% on the day. Broke through 70. So even though you're getting some index weakness across the board, Nvidia is still 194. The AI names, especially these data center names, are still holding up.
Which one?
So I think it's interesting that even Governor Waller, one of the most dovish members, is also repeating what we hear from other Fed members, and we saw in the minutes released earlier this week, which is that this is really just a normalization of rates. This is not an accommodation of policy. And I do think the futures market is now better priced for it versus peak dovishness in September. Rate cut has been taken out, and it's just 100 basis points over the next year to get us to that neutral of about 3%. I think that's the right reading. In terms of which one one will give a little bit more. We think it's the GDP report. It's been particularly strong. Second quarter over 3% is our estimate for the third quarter as well. But we don't think the momentum is accelerating that much. So we might actually get a pretty weak report in the fourth quarter. We're not saying recession by any stretch, just that there's a lot of noise in the data. And if you look through it, it's an okay economy, not a red hot one.
What are you looking through when you say a lot of noise?
Yeah. So the first half of the year, so much noise from net exports, subtracting 5 percentage points, then adding 5 percentage points from inventories as well. And then beneath the surface for the consumer specifically, very weak first quarter, and then a strong rebound in the second quarter into the third. When we look at our Chase data for high frequency data, we're seeing a little bit of a slowdown in October in consumer spending, especially around discretionary. So we're very interested in hearing from the consumer companies later in the earnings season, which is about to kick off, exactly how much of a slowdown have they been seeing here going into October. Again, no major alarm bells, but just one reason that we're cautious about some of this very cyclical rally in the market we've seen since the middle of the summer. So very unprofitable, cyclical type of companies rebounding, and we think that's a bit short-lived, given that it's just an okay economy.
And I know typically the equity markets don't respond to government shutdowns. I guess the longer they go on, potentially there is some reaction there. If some of these furloughs do turn into permanent layoffs, though, could that impact what might otherwise be a fragile labor market at this juncture?
I do think, yes, equity markets are rightfully looking through the shutdown noise and just focusing on what are the key drivers, the secular AI trend, and the earnings season coming up, which we expect to be quite good again, double digits likely for the fourth quarter in a row. In terms of the shutdown itself, part of it is this data fog. We don't think we will get CPI next week. Still enough there for the Fed to cut rates by the end of the month. But again, the longer it goes on, if we don't have any October data, the more foggy it becomes. Otherwise, in terms of the labor market, we have seen really since January negative jobs added from the federal government, and we might even see more already without any additional measures.
And that, again, seems to be the reason why the markets can ignore the government shutdown, because they know that rate cuts have to happen, given the labor market weakness. Now, I do think she might not be correct that we're not getting CPI. Again, Bloomberg reported last night the BLS is pretty committed to getting CPI out there for investors. So if they end up delivering CPI, that would be very bullish. AMD right there, that's down about 2.2% on the day. Grab still down 1%. Google at 242. SoFi at 29.15. So you do have some red candles across the board. But if we can get CPI next week, that would be another tool that the government can use. Now, notice she said we expect earnings to be pretty good. JP Morgan, Goldman, all these guys, they can't put in their models a bad earnings because everyone's expecting earnings to be pretty strong. Does that mean we have to expand multiples dramatically? Maybe not, but that definitely doesn't mean we have to compress multiples. I read right there 68.80. And I think all of us are just hoping, this market can sustain even if it doesn't expand, which is what really matters. Now, again, October 14th, I think that's the day everyone's looking for the shutdown to be over. I don't think Trump wants to get into the holiday season and people aren't getting paid, especially military members, on October 15th. So we're going to have to see how long it lasts, but maybe by the end of the week, which is now, so weekend, we have some progress. Walmart right there, 103.24. Oscar, again, the reason Oscar made a move last week to 25 is because of those healthcare subsidies being extended. I've never been in Oscar because I don't understand healthcare that well. And I'm just, honest about that. So I don't know if, Trump changes his mind and they renegotiate healthcare and that's bad for Oscar. I just don't fully understand that industry that well. But if you've been in it from 14, it's definitely cheap. I will agree with that. When we looked at our deep dive and it was at $12, it was dirt cheap. It's a question of regulatory risks now for Oscar. So for example, VG, I don't know a lot about oil and gas. VG's down 17% today. I'm not in it because I just don't know the industry that well. Could Oscar go down 18% one day because of some healthcare regulation that I know nothing about, which I should know something about if I'm in it? Yeah, it could, right? It could also go up 18% one day if there's something about healthcare that's super bullish. So I feel like with these names, you got to understand the industry when they're pivotal players to and they're at the scrutiny of regulation within the industry if you're going to buy them. Otherwise, it's like you're kind of just betting that you think it'll be okay. So this one definitely taking a hit on the day. Again, the BP case is the reason why it looks like the legal issues for them are going to be lasting until 2026. Circle right there, 152. That's up 1.63. I don't think the short report hurt BM&R. I think it's just Ethereum going down. I mean, we've seen this for the past 3 weeks, dude. Every time Bitcoin gets above 60, 62, it falls back because either Ethereum falls or they dilute. Like, that is the function of this company. And until Ethereum has like one of those big moves, Bitcoin probably stays flat in this range. Granted, it was at 47 last week, so it is still up a ton from last week, but breaking out is a bit tougher. I did not buy a Webull. I almost bought it at 11.90 for a trade. Should have bought it. It was a little bit of it got to 13.50 the other day, but now back at 12.40. But it would have been just a trade. It wouldn't have been an investment. Although you got a lot of people calling for $20 on this. You got a lot of people thinking it's going to pull a Robinhood. I think for it to pull a Robinhood, you got to have more than technicals. You got a lot of the TA bros thinking it's going to 20. It's like, maybe it does. But I feel like 20 that's almost a double from here. I feel like you need something fundamental for that to happen. And I don't know if Webull really has the best fundamentals here. I'm not in Applied Digital, but for those that are in, massive move today, still holding on to 30%, 38.50. Is that all-time highs? That is, yeah. Got to 33 back in 2021, and then basically was stuck in single digits for 4 years, and this year broke out 38.50 on Applied Digital. Archer, okay, so this one took a hit because they weren't partnering with Tesla. Archer right there, 12.63. Again, I just don't love Archer because they don't have anything in the real world yet. They have a lot of prototypes. And so I think Joby is the better bet here simply because they've shown off they can put it into the real world. Granted, if eVTOLs work out as an industry, both should win. But Archer's a little bit too speculative for me right here. Unless you got in at $4 or $5, then you just kind of sit back. But I mean, there's no earnings. There's nothing real here yet. And I kind of just don't want to bet on stuff where there's like absolutely nothing that they can show off for it to be real. But eventually, if it is real, you know, that's where a lot more of the revenues and earnings should come in over time. Rocket Lab right here, 72.50. That one's still down below 73. Oklo, I don't know why Oklo's moving today. I guess the entire energy sector. Wow, 155 on Oklo. Oh, by the way, speaking of Oklo, dude, did you guys see one of the price targets that came out the other day? Because this shit, this is the type of shit that makes you think or a little toppy. One of the banks came out and they had a 175 price target on Oklo. Let me see if I can pull it up. And when you look at their model, it just makes you think it's a little aggressive. Yeah, Canaccord Genuity, they put out a 175 price target, and they said, hey, our price target is based on our DCF with our model stretching to 2050. And I'm like, okay, look, I understand going to 2027. I understand going to 2030. I understand going to 2035. 2050? What? You got to go out 30 years to try to figure out how to make sense of the price target? Like, come on, bro. That's got to seem a bit ridiculous to people. But at the end of the day, it's probably going to go up because, you know, they're going to get a ton of nuclear deals, and all those nuclear deals will be factored in to at this point, $22 billion company with no revenue, and it'll probably go higher. Nvidia, by the way, did we break 150 or 195? We broke 195. There you go. 194.82, 195.30 all-time highs. 195.30 all-time highs. Nvidia making a nice move right here. But 2050, bro? No, it's not a typo. It's not a typo. 2050. And I'm just like, what? Like, what are we talking about here, bro? Like, I understand going out 10 years. I understand going out 5 years. 25 years to make sense of the price today feels like a little bit of a stretch. Like, if you have to go out that far to make sense of the multiple, maybe there's a little bit of an aggressive multiple. But then again, like if we're going to see nuclear demand that is beyond what humans have ever or because of all these data centers. I mean, I showed you guys these charts about how data centers are scaling with Moore's law. Like there needs to be some energy to make up for that. We cannot have energy prices double on the average American So you're going to have some type of either nuclear, oil and gas increase, like something's going to have to make up for that. You know, maybe Oklo is just seen as like the winner there, and it doesn't really matter their valuation because there's just going to be so much demand. So I'm not buying Oklo here, but I also don't know if you necessarily have to sell. I'll be 70 years old in 2050. Yeah. I'll be, how old will I be? I'll be 53. Be 53. You're like, wow, Oklo finally made sense of the numbers. 2884. That's still up 1.4. Lost 29. Nvidia still trying to hit 195 again. 194.50. 2050 U.S. government will be insolvent. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. We got Mark Mahaney on. He's one of the better analysts for Amazon and Google. He was pounding the table at Google at 150. Let's see his take on what's going on with Amazon.
At all. Joining us now is Evercore ISI head of internet research, Mark Mahaney. He has an outperform rating and a $280 price target for the stock. Mark, I'm sure you did way more channel checks than I did here, but I did put an item into my cart, and then a few hours later, the discount disappeared. It was just kind of regular price again. But just broadly speaking, what do you think this means for the brand promise that Amazon offers its customers, and does it degrade that trust a little bit?
Well, I guess it could. We do our annual surveys on Amazon, and when we did it about 2 months ago, it actually reached record high levels for us in terms of where people like to shop online. And we test things like brand strength, price, selection, and convenience. So I haven't seen any change there. I read that Washington Post article this morning. I thought that was pretty negative. A little skeptical of the conclusions, but I don't have anything better. But the channel checks that we've done on the Prime Day over the last 2 days, yeah, it did come in a little bit kind of soft or a little bit light. Now, you have to compare that with the 4-day Prime Day that they did in July, so it's hard to compare 2 with 4 days. And it's possible that it reflects a little bit of consumer softness. It's possible that's in there. So it's hard to know. But yeah, I don't think it certainly wasn't overwhelming. And the question is just how whelming or underwhelming it is. And I think there are other reasons to like Amazon. But yeah, this was a little bit of a soft report, I'd say.
So I want to get into those other.
I ordered nothing for the past 3 days on Prime Day. So let me know in the chat if you guys took advantage of Prime Day. But anecdotally, I definitely didn't take advantage of this Prime Day deals. And I don't know, the summer was a bit light compared to last year. So it's not a bear case for Amazon, but maybe not as much demand as people thought going into last year.
Reasons as well, but first, you noted the softness, at least in terms of how engaged people were with Prime Day and how much they were spending. Does that indicate to you this dynamic that the Washington Post laid out, where people felt like they weren't really getting a deal, so they opted not to really go all in on its Prime Day, or do you think it is the consumer getting weaker, and this is just the first indication of that?
It's very hard to know, Leslie. I imagine it's probably a little bit of both. But, even in our retail tracking that my colleague Greg Melnick on the retail side does, we're not seeing we're seeing a little bit of a slowdown in retail spend, but it's not dramatic. And Amazon is so big now, 10% of retail sales, kind of the same size as Walmart. If there really were a slowdown, Amazon would see it. So there may be a modest slowdown or maybe some uncertainty, and I guess that's the best read. And I'll just still stick with our survey work. I'm going to lean into that more than I will into the Washington Post article. All due respect to them. When we ask people where they get the best price and selection and convenience, especially on price, there's just no change. Amazon is consistently, and I think this is their algorithm. They price to tie the lowest price out there, and they've consistently done this for years, and I don't think that's changed. So I'm going to put I'm giving you a couple of different answers, but I don't think Amazon's pricing philosophy has changed as much as that article suggested.
Always worth noting, of course, Jeff Bezos.
All right. So it seems like a decent chunk of you didn't really take advantage of the Amazon Prime stuff, but Amazon, again, Prime, I don't think is the reason why the stock goes up. It likely would be AWS 226. We are seeing some red candles across the board. It's almost 10:30. Nvidia trying to crack 195, but everything else relatively flat. Amit, what would I do with my Nvidia covered call? 185 expires today. I would roll it, obviously, unless you want those shares to get sold. 185 is not that crazy. I mean, you can roll out a couple months and probably get to like 210, 215. So, you're not like in the 160s or anything. But I would roll that, probably try to get December 215. And you would have to go from there. I mean, a lot of covered calls on Nvidia got hit over the past 2 weeks because Nvidia was kind of flat for almost a month. So people thought, the covered calls wouldn't get hit. And then it just went nuclear with the Middle East stuff that came out over the past couple of days, the AMD deal, the OpenAI deal, and then the China stuff that came out last night. And then Jensen, going on CNBC talking for 40 minutes about how all this circular financing stuff is not as big of a deal as some people think. By the way, the CoreWeave CEO also came out and explained why this whole circular financing stuff is like stupid to be able to make the argument. And his larger point was just that there's an ROI. So he was like, why are people saying it's so circular if there's going to be a way that the money comes back? Here's exactly what he said yesterday about this.
Just tech companies in the world are purchasing this infrastructure because they have demand. There's nothing circular about that. It's a fundamental infrastructure build out that's taking place. And when you have such a massive scale investment in infrastructure, it is not unusual to see partnerships as people try to serve infrastructure to the consumers. It happens in other markets. It's happening in this market. I don't think it's circular at all.
Late last month.
So, I mean, look, obviously he's incentivized to say it's not circular because his business relies on this stuff. But at the end of the day, I do think he has a point. If there's real demand, there's real ROI. I don't think it necessarily has to be seen as a full-on circular form of financing. Corey right here trying to break 150 as we get into this 1030 level. Nvidia 20 cents away from the 195s. Tesla 436. Tesla, a little bit of a disappointment this week with those new models. I mean, I just think most people were not impressed by the price targets they had on them, but still holding on to the 400s, which is good. And then Palantir right here at 185. So if I trying to get right back into the 29s. Are you buying the VG dip? I am not. I've been pretty disciplined on not buying names in a sector that I have zero understanding of. Same with Oscar. As much as I think Oscar was deeply undervalued and cheap, I'm like, dude, I will wake up one day, something will be announced around the ACA, and I will have no idea how to talk about it because I just don't know anything in the industry. So same thing with oil and gas. Now, granted, the little I know about oil and gas in terms of the amount of demand that's coming from AI and how we're going to need oil and gas makes me excited to look into the industry. I'm not excited to look into healthcare at all. That's why I also didn't care about UNH. I'm like, look, I get it. It's cheap, but like, I don't care about healthcare. I don't even want to go deep into healthcare. Like, it's hard to be super excited about it. So oil and gas is interesting, but am I buying the VG dip after they just lost $1 billion lawsuit to BP? No, like that doesn't look like something exciting to buy. Now, granted, is this the time you buy if you have conviction? Probably. But if you're a newer investor into the space, it's like, why would you take the risk? You just don't know enough about it. Eventually, you will learn about every sector. That is the goal. That is the goal. And one of my real main goals in 2026 is just to expand my horizons of sectors I can intelligently speak about because I've actually done the research, and also different names in those sectors that aren't the typical, AMD, NVIDIAs of the world. It's important. You got to find new names, but with oil and gas, just don't have enough information about it. Nvidia is still trying to push up to that 195. BM&R still holding 58, 57.98. I haven't talked to Chris about VG either. So I think he might get on the close today because we usually do macro Thursdays, but we missed it yesterday. So maybe he'll come on today. Hope we can get some of his thoughts. Dan says, you're right. The only thing that I trust is technology. That's why I invested in it. Yeah, I think a lot of us, bro. A lot of us can understand technology. A, because we use it every day. B, because it's like tech companies are playing such a big role in society. It's like you're kind of forced to read more stories and headlines and understand how tech companies operate. You can understand PEG ratios on tech companies, understand what it means to pay for growth, all that stuff. So, and the majority of retail investors, quite frankly, have made a lot of money off tech companies this year. Nvidia back to 195. And obviously the NASDAQ is leading the way. So it doesn't seem like tech has been the wrong spot to be in, but I do think diversifying different verticals going into the next 5 years is at least important if you're trying to broaden your horizon as an investor. Tech company business models are simple. Yeah, that's also true. I mean, it's usually not that complicated to understand them. Nvidia right there, just below 195. Dude, this is now 4.7 trillion. So 5 trillion is at 203. 5 trillion is at 203. If we can get to 203, you're going to see 5 trillion, which would be crazy because it's already gained about 2.7 trillion since the lows of April, which is pretty freaking wild. Big Bear, that one's still running. BBAI, that's moving 12% of the day. I don't know if there's a headline on Big Bear. That one continues to move. Yesterday was flat, right? Yesterday was pretty red. We got bank reports next week. Yeah, I don't think there's no headline on Big Bear. Seems technical. JP Morgan, Goldman, all those guys next week. That's going to be super important. And we're going to have to see what these guys can say. I think financials are going to crush it. I mean, I'm really not worried about financials having a good set of reports. XLF is up 9% this year. It's not really done that much. Seeing this move up towards 15% for the year, I think would not be that crazy. Palantir has not officially announced their earnings. So if you're looking at the brokerages to say it's November 3rd, until they come out with the press release, it's not official. But it should be in that like early November week for Palantir. What about D-Wave? Any thoughts? I am not in the quantum names. I don't understand these names either. I just don't get it, dude. I don't understand their multiples. I don't understand how the street thinks of them. I don't get it. And I'm damn sure not buying them here. Like there's some names you just don't need to own. You don't need to be scared about not owning them. I do think it's important for people to be like, look, I don't own quantum. Why do I have to own quantum? Right? Like, yes, a lot of people made a lot of money in it. Okay, that's great for them. Do I have to own it? No. And that is okay. But you are seeing a ton of FOMO in a lot of these sectors that have, just had a massive move. And it's like, it's nearing the end of the year. You don't need to own all these names. So I don't know. I think the quantum stocks could be down a lot randomly one day when people wake up and they're like, there's no use case for this. I think they could also go up another 3, 4, 5x over the next couple of years if quantum computers really do become some of the most important computing technology on the planet. But I personally don't understand the multiples they trade at. And I think ultimately time will tell how relevant they will be long term. But we're going to have to see. Christian says, that's me. I don't own quantum because I don't understand it, but definitely not bearish. Yeah, like I wouldn't buy puts on it because or short it because you just don't know, right? You just like, unless you're hedging, if you genuinely think they're going to collapse, it's like, well, what if they don't? So it's like, if you don't know that, then why would you short it, right? Now, Skrelly thinks he understands quantum so well that he's confident enough to short, which that's to his prerogative. But just because the stock went up doesn't mean it's a good short. Bitcoin right here, almost about to go below 121, dude. This thing has just been a disappointment all week. Broke through all-time highs on Sunday night and has not been able to keep up. Plenty of people taking profits on Bitcoin and Ethereum, quite frankly, throughout the entire week. Nebius is moving still. Nebius 138.47 on Nebius. Nvidia, did we hit all-time highs? Did we get it? Yep, we got it, folks. 195.49. There she goes. There she goes. I'll see if I can get some resistance on this, but pretty cool. Where was everybody last night when you saw the Nvidia all-time high? I was literally just getting out of the root canal. I picked up my phone and I saw it. Yeah, I can't see the book flow on Robinhood. I was like, literally, I was like getting my prescription from the counter while I was tweeting. I was just like, I stepped out of the room and I saw the all-time highs. It's pretty cool, dude. It's pretty cool to see. This thing was sub 90 less than 4 months ago. Yeah, it was at 86. It was at 86. 200 would get us really closer to that $5 trillion market cap. Lulu, by the way, that one's down a little bit on the day. 4.75 trillion. 4.75 trillion on Nvidia. 4.75. In 10 years, quantum will just replace semiconductors. I don't know, dude. Maybe. Maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't. I have no clue. You know, I think 2026, I will try to do as much of a deep dive as I can on quantum because I really haven't spent time with it. Maybe I'll get super bullish on it. But again, that was even the goal of launching the Substack. It's just like I really do want to spend the next few years deeply researching some of these names and understand the sectors a lot better. I think, you know what, I think over the past 3 years, one of the things I could say I'm pretty happy about that I've been able to learn and just like become more confident speaking about is the macro. Like understanding the impact of interest rates and inflation and the Fed and like how to even, you know, understand the Fed talk or the Fed speak as they call it. You know, when Jay Powell says this, what does it actually mean? Like all that stuff. I think the past 3 years, that's just been because, you know, when you're covering the news, you have to learn how to analyze what the Fed says and what consumer confidence means, what ISM actually entails for the broader market. That I think I spent the past couple of years really learning well. And I think that's important. Now, Peter Lynch would say I wasted 3 years, which is fine because Peter Lynch doesn't think any of this shit matters. I do disagree with Peter Lynch on that. I think he's the GOAT. But like, come on, bro. If you spend 10 minutes on macro, you've wasted 10 minutes of your life. I think that is just such bullshit. Like, I genuinely think that is such bullshit. It's like, no, understanding the macro is really important. The reason I was able to like effectively build a position in Robinhood was because of understanding the impact of interest rates on their business. Like, like it's not just Robinhood's a great business. Like, yeah, it's a great business, but it's a very interest rate sensitive business. And when it was stuck at $6-7, you had to understand what was happening in the macro economy to think it could even get to $20 one day. So I really do think understanding the macro is important, but obviously the fundamentals of companies outweigh long-term. And that stuff is also really important. But next year, want to definitely diversify. Yen carry trade emit was top tier. Dude, that was an exciting time just to understand what the heck is like. People were borrowing against the yen to buy US stocks and Japan raises rates. And now they're stuck in a catch-22. So they have to sell their tech stocks. Like that day was crazy. That was the last time you got a chance to buy Palantir below 25, that yen carry trade. It was the day of Palantir earnings, actually. Palantir right here, 185.96. So I think all that stuff is definitely important. I think his point is if you're investing and not short-term trading, it's completely useless. Yeah, but I mean, like even that, I don't know, dude. Like if you're investing, I think understanding what's going on in the macro economy matters. Like if his argument is you're going to buy a stock and hold it for the rest of your life, then you don't need to pay. But then you don't need to pay attention to like at that point, once you understand anything about the company, then you just like you don't even have to look at the stock price. Then what does it matter? Right? And like maybe that is the best philosophy. But I do think there are impacts on the macro that really do matter. Like, look, if like you could love SoFi as a stock, but let's say the Fed says tomorrow they're going to raise rates. Is it the best time to be in SoFi? Are you a trader for selling some of your SoFi because you're looking at, hey, a high rate environment is not good for SoFi, which needs lower rates for refinancing demand? No. But like if you don't care about the macro at all, but then at that point, you don't even care about the stock market. At that point, you just shut your brokerage away and just go on with your life and don't look at any of your stocks. And if that's Peter Lynch's philosophy, then I guess that's fine. But like some of this stuff really does matter, especially in the dynamic economy that we have today. I feel like you can't just forget about all that stuff. Navitas is up 12%. That's moving. 8.99. That's moving with Applied Digital today as well. Thoughts on SMCI? I bought it. I got a spread on this thing. I think probably goes higher with increased GPU demand. So Chris and Jason are both in this one. I think it makes sense. Liquid cooling technology matters. They really haven't re-rated since Dell put out better financials, and Dell and SMCI are relatively in the same niche. So I think you can see SMCI closer to 75, 80 next year, just based on NVIDIA's earnings. Hopefully there's no accounting fraud, but I don't think it's horrible. UNH, why is that one down today? Where's the heat map? What are we looking at today? Wow, we're pretty green, dude. Across the board. UNH is red. Got a lot of value names that are red. We're still pretty green. I did 60-90 for 2027. 60, let me check to make sure. It's 60-90, or is it 2028? I think it's 2028. It's 60-90 spreads, 2027. So Jan 27, 60-90 for those spreads. Okay, so relatively green. Let's take a look at the stock draft. How bad is Matt beating all of us? Okay, we're catching up. Matt's at 49.7. I'm at 46. Nebius is definitely due. We're up 170% on Nebius. That one's helping out. Steve's at 9. Tanner's at 23. And Chris is at 14. Chris was at like -5 a month ago. So Chris has really turned around. Novo is the only thing that's hurting him a lot right now. But Matt right there is still at 49.73. Oklo still moving. Oklo not stopping. Yo, the Lululemon founder. Holy crap. This guy has beef with Lulu. He's on CNBC right now, and he's like, hey, the problem with Lululemon is the board of directors. I guess he's not there anymore, and he's talking shit about his old company. That's wild, bro. I guess this guy doesn't like the new management. Lululemon founder says board of directors is the real issue at Lululemon.
Into Wall Street and quarterly numbers, and it hires people that can deliver specific quarterly numbers, and those people are generally very good and everything, but they're not creative, and they tend to use algorithms to buy and sell what's sold the year before. So basically, innovation stops, and so when that stops, then you start losing great people. You start losing great people that the brand kind of falters. Those people leave, and then it's a snowball effect from there, where the management leaves, and then you have a very hard time hiring good people or board of directors.
All right, looks like this guy is not a fan of Lulu. Apparently, he was in a controversy in 2024. He said overweight people shouldn't buy Lululemon clothing. Is that why it looks like, did he get ousted by the board of directors? Maybe that's one of the reasons. He's 68 years old. He's from Canada. That stock's just been a disaster all year. Lulu right here. It is up from 163, but 172 is what you have. Yeah, he said that, bro. January 2024. The quote is Lululemon isn't for fat people, just like McDonald's isn't for health conscious eaters. Okay, that's not, I don't know if that's going to be the best for the brand, but he did say that Nvidia is still holding 195. Well, no, I don't think that's the reason the stock is down. The stock is down because of the tariff stuff hurting them, but still, Meta right there holding 730. Kalshi, yeah, they just raised $300 million at a $5 billion valuation. So Polymarket raised at like $9 billion. $9 billion 2 days ago. Kalshi, $300 million, $5 billion from Sequoia, Andreessen, Paradigm. They've grown over 3x, hit 50 billion of annualized volume, and became the largest prediction market in the world. Today, they're going global, 140 countries. So again, Robinhood does have a partnership with these guys, and that should be helping out a lot of their volumes as well. But Kalshi not slowing down. Dude, these prediction markets are becoming more important. Becoming more and more important. Nvidia, we hit 195.54, just below that right here. She's screaming for 200. Like, we know what's going to happen. Might not happen today. But I think we all know eventually this one is going to play out. 195.54. Do you have any thoughts on On? I know about them. They've definitely given Nike a little bit of a run for their money. That one's down about 2% on the day. Don't have an investment in them. Nike also has been flat. They got to 75, and they've just been kind of declining ever since that earnings bump. I think Nike still has another 2 years to like have a legit turnaround. And then Oklo, I don't know what the hell is going on today. Another 15%. Did Trump sign another nuclear executive order or something? Like this is massive, bro. Yeah, I think it's the Canaccord Genuity price target. I feel like that's it. That's the only headline I see, and that came out yesterday. So it looks like a bit of a delayed reaction. Nuclear deal is probably coming. I think that's what's exciting for them. Thoughts on Affirm? Buy now, pay later is definitely an industry that has been re-rated over the past couple of years. Klarna, by the way, got a partnership with Google, which kind of helped the stock out. That's down 3% of the day. The only problem with buy now, pay later right now is, what do you think the state is of credit delinquencies? And we saw what happened to SoFi just off the rumor that delinquencies are ramping up. Upstart obviously got hit because of that as well. I don't know if it's the most exciting industry to be in. Now, Affirm's underwriting has been one of the best underwriting when it comes to buy now, pay later. And Max is, a phenomenal CEO. But I do think those industry stats are important to buy this thing. Affirm is up about 20% year to date. Yeah, you got to think Oklo is going to get a federal deal or something, right? Like someone's got to know something about Oklo that's pumping this. And ironically, whenever they announce a deal for whatever billions of revenue, this thing's going to pump even more, even though that it's probably baked into the stock right now. It's just been incredible, dude. I knew about this name at 6 too. I told you, I had a couple friends who were in it privately and they told me about it, but they weren't excited when they told me about it. They were just like, yeah, we're in it. And hopefully nuclear takes off, but like they weren't pounding the table being like, you should look into this. So I didn't look into this. And then every time it kept doubling, I was like, oh, well, it's just excitement. It's like, no, I guess the market is positioning them as the core retail or the core nuclear winners, and retail's latching onto that as well. But I guess we got to see if that plays out. I don't think Navitas has any news today. I think it's moving with Applied Digital. But I don't see any big news. Rocklab, are we still holding 70 there? Rocklab, 70.87. 70.87. The Secretary of Energy used to be on the board of Oklo. That's bullish. And then Sam Altman used to be the chairman of Oklo. That's also bullish. But still, like even with, I'll give you all those bullish arguments, even with that, I mean, it's a bit egregious, the valuation. Now, then again, valuation probably doesn't matter for this. But I guess those were signals to look at 629% ago as reasons to take a bet on it. And whoever did has done very well. 158 on Oklo. Nebius, did we get 140? Nebius, wow, 140. Dipped to 117 2 weeks ago. Now at 140. This one also making a massive, massive move. Doug says VG is profitable with real revenue. Let's sell that and buy Oklo. He's obviously being sarcastic right here, but still. That is wild, dude. Absolutely freaking wild. I have a Navitas covered call at $9. What do I do? Well, first of all, you're barely in the money on this, so you can easily roll this. Yeah, you're in October 31st, so you're gonna have to roll out a couple months, but I would roll it now, right? Now that you've touched your strike, roll it now. Don't wait until October 31st. And then if it goes down, you can close it early. If not, then you're eligible for more appreciation. Nvidia right there, 195.62. It hit a new all-time high. I cannot see the order book flow today, dude. Robinhood's not showing it. I don't know what's going on with their data feeds today. It's just not popping up for me. So I can't even see resistance here. But it looks like it wants 196. And gold and silver still holding up as well. Okay, let's see what else we have. What else? Today is a Friday. So we could have a ton of different issues happen towards the end of the day when it comes to options expiring. We had Waller on this morning. I mean, let's see what he had to say. He's one of the Fed governors who's more dovish about interest rates.
Private sector data that still comes out, and there's a lot of it. Now, the problem is it's not necessarily representative or as broad as sort of the government official data, but if you get enough pieces of information, you can kind of pretty much get a picture of what's happening. So, for example, there's lots of things popping about from the labor market that we're hearing. Like Carlisle had something the other day, ADP, we get all these things. They're not really representative and they're very specific, but they're all telling you the same story. The labor market is weak, right? And that's the punchline for policy. That's what we need to know. So it isn't one specific number, but collectively, these 1,000 paper cut kind of data things tell us the labor market's not doing great.
How weak is the labor market as your judgment from that data?
Well, like I said, I think the data that we saw with ADP is consistent with what we were starting to see with the BLS data. The job growth has probably been negative the last few months.
Wow.
Doesn't look like it's doing much better. Anecdotally, that's pretty much, I don't hear anybody with big hiring plans. All I ever hear is we're not backfilling, we're not firing, we're holding off any job things. That's the anecdotal evidence that you want to talk business. So again, this is all consistent with whatever pieces of private sector data. And I think that's what you would get from the BLS data. If you came out and said it was 150,000 jobs a month, I'd be shocked.
Okay.
It wouldn't match anything else I'm hearing.
But you also look at more high frequency ADP data. What is that telling you?
Yeah, it's the same thing. ADP isn't necessarily that strongly correlated in many ways. That's why people have dismissed it. But hey, it's got some correlation. It gives you some signal of what's going on. So use what you have when you have it.
How important is it that you're going to get the BLS CPI data?
I think that helps a lot. You know, that's one of the biggest concerns my colleagues in particular have is about inflation. The BLS, the labor data is done. Let it out. Come on, give it to us. You don't have to hold it back. And then if you have the jobs, the CPI, that's two of the biggest data points. And we can see how that matches up with the rest of the private sector stuff we're getting.
Looking at what has been said recently, the committee's pretty divided on the need for additional rate cuts. And there's a lot more concern with, among some of your colleagues, with the inflation data. It seems like you are less concerned. And why is that?
Well, this is a position I've taken a year or so ago. Tariffs, any tariff effects, which everybody's kind of focused on, are one-off effects. It doesn't mean they all happen in 1 month. They can happen in small steps, but they're one-time increases in the price level. This doesn't cause persistent inflation, and this has long been the standing of central banks for decades, that you look through these types of things. Canada had a VAT tax back in the 90s, and they said, we're not going to pay attention to what it does for prices. And they were the ones that coined the phrase, you look through these things. So I've taken that view with tariffs, and then we know it's going to have some potentially temporary effect. I don't think it's particularly that big. It could be, but that's what we'll see. But if the idea is that this will be, inflation will come up and then come back down, we don't set policy based. You shouldn't be setting policy based on that. So for me, I'm looking at the labor market as my biggest concern. So I made this point back in June to you that the labor market was not as good as it looked.
Right.
And the August 1st jobs report came out and pretty much confirmed that view.
So Waller continues to make the same argument, Nvidia holding 195, that the labor market is the issue. And, it's not a horrible argument. It's an argument that we're going to need to be continuing to make if we think rate cuts are on the way. But I would imagine Jay Powell and a lot of the other Fed officials agree with him. There was only, I think, 1 or 2 officials that came out in the Fed minutes that said they think we're not restrictive enough. So it's not like the majority consensus is that we are too easy in our monetary policy. And that should continue to, make the bolstering argument for rate cuts. Amazon right there, 227. Nvidia still up 1.5. We are relatively flat on the day. I mean, S&P's up a little bit right here, 673. But across the board, I mean, I think the big moves that happened this week happened from Monday to Wednesday. Monday with the AMD deal. And then Tuesday, kind of a lot of that deal was baked in. Jensen went on CNBC. And then Wednesday with the Rocket Lab ASTS stuff. Those 3 days this week were just massive across the market. But the last 2 days have been relatively flat and kind of been digesting the news since then. BM&R, is that still at 59? 58.14. That one down below. I love that Hood is chilling for a bit. Yeah, I agree. Dude, I look at the end of the day, as much as I love Hood, I don't think it's healthy for Hood to go to like 175 overnight. I don't think that's healthy. Like because once you get to those levels, you have to sustain those multiples. And there's a lot of pressure to sustain those multiples. And it's not easy to do that. And the downside can become really aggressive if they have any bad news or quarters or stuff. And so I think it should gradually get, and look, it's already gone up in hypersonic speed. So now I think it should gradually, if it's going to make the next leg up, happen without having to make a massive. Same thing with Nebius, dude. I love Nebius here, but is it healthy for it to go from 89 to 140 in less than a month? I don't know. And maybe it is, maybe it's not, but I don't know if like being a buyer at these levels on a lot of these stocks is like the easiest thing to do. But we're gonna have to see. Is that why it's slow? Because they're chilling? Well, it's like they're trying to develop a base. I like that Hood's normalizing the 140s, but I don't think it needs to run up to like 170 tomorrow. Now, SoFi, I do think should break out. This one, I think, has spent enough time in the 20s and there's enough tailwinds for it to move. But we're ultimately going to have to see. Tesla still holding on to 440s. Oracle, that 3% recovery on Oracle is pretty incredible, dude, given the shit they had to deal with on Tuesday. Wow, right back to 306, fell all the way to 270. All the way to 270 on Oracle. Can you take a look at Lyft? We looked at Lyft on Tuesday. Lyft's numbers look good. This one has made a move this year. I think you got a lot of people thinking 25 is very possible. It's up 40% this year, so it's not like it's been stagnant. I think they increased their free cash flow margins back in July, or like that's what they showed on their earnings, and then the thing really jumped. They also had a bunch of partnerships with Waymo that helped it out as well. So I don't hate Lyft here. Uber has been also breaking through or trying to break through all-time highs at that $100 level. Batty, thank you for the super chat. I bought micro Bitcoin futures today. Both Arthur Hayes and Tom Lee are calling for Bitcoin to 200,000 by end of year. Even if we get to 150 to 180, the futures will pay off nicely. Yeah, I mean, look, any derivative towards Bitcoin, if it makes that move, should do well. It's just this week was not the best week for Bitcoin. And maybe it needs more rate cuts, dude. Maybe it needs more liquidity entering the system to really take off. But this week, it definitely took a breather. I think 150 is not crazy, though. 200, I don't know. 200, we're going to have to see. But gold, again, continues to take off, even though people are buying Bitcoin and gold. Gold obviously outperforming right here. Take a look at this. The holdings of ETFs linked to physical gold have hit a record 225 billion. Physical gold with US ETFs attracted 33 billion in September alone. And before the 2020 pandemic, gold holdings in these ETFs were at 50 billion, which means it has gone up 4.5 times, 450%. I mean, this is kind of also explaining why Bitcoin is not at 200,000 right now. I mean, a lot of money is not going into Bitcoin. It's going into gold. Now, money is coming into Bitcoin. It's not like it's not getting any inflows. It had $1 billion of inflows 2 days ago on the ETFs. But gold is getting a lot of excitement. And maybe that pivots when you get more rate cuts. What else are we seeing? Vertiv, that one's slightly flat right here. Iran's above 70. Yeah, Iran's 67.32. That one's still making a move. Did anyone sell or buy anything yesterday? I bought BMNR and Grab a little bit, but outside of that, nothing too crazy. I don't know. We saw the Nvidia breakout yesterday, and then everything kind of just like fell flat. 195.26 right here. Still on Nvidia. How about Tilray? They had earnings. How were those earnings? We didn't look at that. Tilray. Oh, down 10%. Okay. Looks like not the best for the weed names for Tilray. What do you think about Dutch Bros? I have not looked that deep into them, but I know they've been getting smacked over the past couple of days. Tilray, they beat by 100% on EPS, beat by 2% on revenue. But it looks like the market doesn't like it. It was up 30% yesterday. Okay, so maybe that's why it's going down 10% today. I see a bunch of people saying they bought DraftKings, bought Cypher, bought Oracle, bought more BM&R, bought some of the meme stock ETF, which was up like 70% 2 days ago after hours. Bought some Grab. Bought 4. Tanner likes 4. We know he said that he likes 4. Oh, Jarek Isaacson, there was a headline yesterday that he's in talks to potentially work with the Trump administration, which is the opposite of what was happening before. So that could be bullish for them as well. SMR, Freshworks, Orbs. Well, if you bought Orbs yesterday, that one's doing great today. AMKR, again, I bought that one as well. Again, for this one, it's to me, it's a 6 to 12 month play, and you're looking for about 45 to 50. So this is not one where there's day-to-day news, day-to-day updates. There's probably not going to be a ton of volume. Quite frankly, this stock is going to move when they get re-rated on their earnings, and earnings would be the like major catalyst that helped this name. So I think if you buy it, it's more of a buy and hold, and you pay attention on earnings. But in between that, I don't think there's too many headlines to keep up with this one. 195.40 on Nvidia. And Rocket Lab right here is still holding 70.8. I think Sam will be on, guys, in about 10 minutes. So we'll end out the market open today with Sam. He'll hop on the show, give some of his thoughts about the market. And then we'll be done for the market open today. And then we'll have the close as usual. Dude, Netflix. Talk about that rebound in Netflix. That one, nice little pivot from there as well. It's very nice to see that. 1246. This thing got to almost 1,000 a couple of days ago. So it looks like the whole cancel Netflix thing, I guess it just didn't really matter. So should be okay. Michelle, thank you for becoming a channel member. Appreciate it. Thank you for being here. And Masay, thank you as well for becoming a channel member. Lewis, thanks for the $10 super chat. Thank you for all you do, mate. I made a lot of money because of you. What are your thoughts on BM&R calls? Strike price 80 for June 2026. The premiums are great if you're doing these long dated calls for BM&R. If you're selling them, if you are buying these calls, oh, you see BM&R? This is a red candle. As soon as I click on it, dude, are you guys looking at the screen? It looks like they're diluting right in front of us. It felt like 50 cents right when I clicked on it. It literally looked, is ETH falling like crazy? It looks like, you saw this, right? You guys have seen it, right? Oh no, that's because of ETH. Yo, someone's selling the shit out of ETH right now. 43.50 to 42.97. That's probably why. Literally, I clicked it. It goes from 57.80 down to 56.90. Spies falling too. Oh, Spies. Oh, there's got to be news. There's got to be news. Something's happening. Something's happening. Everything. What's the news? What's the news? What's the news? What do we got going on? What do we got going on? What is the news? In terms of those BM&R 80 calls, again, if you think it gets to 80 by June 2026, which means you think Ethereum does well, then I think it's a good price. But you got to be confident in Ethereum. Hold on. It's got to be Trump. What is he saying? What the heck is he saying? Wow, dude, S&P 673 to 668. Hold on, bro. I think Trump just tweeted. Oh, shit. All right, here we go. It's a long tweet. It's about China. It's a long tweet. It's about China. Robinhood 146, Palantir 183, Nvidia about to go red, AMD 222, Grab at 602, Reddit 207, Amazon 224. Here we go. Trump. Some very strange things are happening in China. They are becoming very hostile and sending letters to countries throughout the world that they want to impose export controls on each of them and every element of production having to do with rare earth minerals and virtually anything else they can think of, even if it's not manufactured in China. Nobody has ever seen anything like this. Essentially, it would clog the markets and make life difficult for virtually every country in the world, especially for China. We have been contacted by other countries who are extremely angry at this great trade hostility, which came out of nowhere. Our relationship with China over the past 6 months has been a very good one, thereby making this mood on trade even more surprising. I have always felt that they've been lying in I've always felt they've been lying. As usual, I've been proven right. There is no way that China should be allowed to hold the world captive, but that seems to be something of their plan, starting with magnets and other elements. But the U.S. has a monopoly position as well, much stronger than China. I have not chosen to use them. There was never a reason for me to do until now. The letter they sent is many pages long and details with great specificity, each and every element they want to withhold from other nations. Dude, this tweet is still going. Things that were routine are no longer routine at all. I have not spoken to President Xi because there was no reason to do so. This was a real surprise, not only to me, but to all leaders of the free world. I was to meet with President Xi in 2 weeks at APEC in South Korea, but now there is no reason to do so. Bro, the Chinese letters were especially inappropriate in that this was the day after 3,000 years of fighting, there is peace in the Middle East. I wonder if the timing was coincidental. Oh boy. Trump saying that China is essentially trying to mess up the Israel-Hamas deal. Depending on what China says about the hostile order as they have just put out, I will be forced as president of the United States to financially counter their move. S&P down almost more than 0.5% now. For every element that they have been able to monopolize, we have two. I have never thought it would come to this, but perhaps as with all things, the time has come. Ultimately, though potentially painful, it will be a very good thing in the end for the USA. One of the policies that we are calculating at this moment is massive increase of tariffs. Oh my goodness. On Chinese products coming into the United States. There are many other countermeasures that are likewise under serious condition. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Okay, so you got two things from Trump right there. Number one is a threat of more tariffs. And number two is him saying, I don't even want to talk to Xi in 2 weeks anymore because of apparently these letters that China is sending to all these other countries, essentially threatening them with more and more restrictions on rare earth minerals. Trump specifically saying magnets being the biggest one that they're dealing with. Okay, so are we buying the dip? Are we buying the dip? I mean, that's what we've been doing. Are we doing it? Are we freaking doing it? Goodness gracious, bro. I mean, well, I just went down $80,000. That's fun. Covered calls. Anyone who was worried about them, you got a little present from Mr. Donnie T a couple months before Christmas to save some of your covered calls right here. Goodness gracious, bro. 428 on Tesla. Okay. Do we think this is S&P right there down 1%? CNBC is not even covering it yet. I don't think they have the update. Let me put in the chat right here. What are we thinking? I think it's a something burger, but I also think I think it's a nothing burger that's being disguised as a something burger. But the S&P down 1%, I mean, inevitably this was going to happen, right? And it looks like Trump is making it happen. Okay, so the question is something burger or nothing burger? What do you think? Nothing burger or something burger? I think it's nothing, but it's got a little something to it. S&P is already recovering a little bit. I don't know. You're seeing these red candles kind of stall out down about 3-4%. You're not seeing the bottom fall out. There's plenty of algos coming in and taking advantage of this. Where's AppLovin? That one, right? Wow, AppLovin, 585. I bought it at 578. I sold it at 600, but right back down below 600. PayPal losing all of its momentum. Meta 718. Grab looks like it wants to go below 6. If it does, I'll buy. But it's not there yet. And then Nvidia losing something. This was a long tweet, bro. A long ass tweet. And that's what makes me feel like it maybe has a hint of a something burger attached to it, because I mean, Trump really took his time explaining to everybody that he's upset with China. I don't know. Let's see if we can get some coverage on this. I just read the tweet, so you can rewind. It took me like 5 minutes to read through it. At its core, Trump is saying that he's upset with China for what they're doing. And the tariffs might come back on China. I really don't think the tariffs are coming back on China. That I think is absolute garbage. I think we're too close to getting to a deal across the entire world for tariffs to come back as aggressively. Mic issue. Okay, hold on. Let me. Okay. Dude, imagine, I don't want to get hyperbolic, but if this really did mess up the end of the year, that would be crazy. It would be identical to 2028. Or sorry, to 2018. I don't think that's going to happen. I think you've got too much momentum, especially in earnings growth, for this to be the case. But China was the reason for why 2018 got a hit. So it would be very peculiar if this happened again. Again, I just like 2018 didn't have earnings growth, didn't have a Fed. The Fed was raising rates in 2018. We got the Fed cutting rates. So I really don't think it's like that. But China could be a little bit of a wild card right here. S&P getting a bit of a green candle. Okay, we got some coverage on it. Let me pull this up. We got a little bit of coverage now on what's going on. Let me see if we can get this.
Percent variety that we would expect in any sort of normal resetting of the bull market, and we have any number of catalysts that are primed to do that, but we just have not seen really because of say we're sort of bracing but not adjusting portfolios for a pullback in the fourth quarter. We're still fully invested.
Okay, so we're not getting any specific coverage right there. MP's moving, guys. The reason MP's moving is because Trump is saying that China's hurting our capacity to internationally get rare earth minerals, and MP is trying to do that domestically. Lithium Americas, is that moving as well? LAC, that one started to go green. It was red on the day. USAR, that's also pumping as well. All right, let me get the news right here. I think we have it now.
Post on Truth Social. For that, we'll turn to Eamon Javers. Eamon?
Carl, that's right. This is the president now reacting on social media to the Chinese move earlier to restrict rare earth materials coming out of that country to nations around the world. The president posting a lengthy post on social media here, but in it, he's threatening unspecified retaliation against the Chinese side. He also seems here to cancel his scheduled meeting that's coming up with President Xi Jinping of China. The president here saying this was a real surprise, not only to me, but to all the leaders of the free world. I was to meet President Xi in 2 weeks at APEC in South Korea, but now there seems no reason to do so. The president going on to say that the Chinese letters about rare earths were especially inappropriate, and that this was the day that, after 3,000 years of bedlam and fighting, there is peace in the Middle East. I wonder if the timing was coincidental. So the president here objecting not only to the Chinese move on rare earths, but to the fact that it appears to have stepped on the news of his apparent peace agreement with Israel and Hamas yesterday. The president also suggesting that there are a number of unspecified retaliatory measures that the United States can take here in response to China. It says for everything they have a monopoly on, the United States has two, and they're looking at ways to respond. He says, ultimately, though potentially painful, it will be a very good thing in the end for USA. One of the policies that we are calculating at this moment is a massive increase of tariffs on Chinese products coming into the United States of America. There are many other countermeasures that are likewise under serious consideration. So the president here seeming to cancel his meeting with Xi Jinping of China, also threatening a massive increase in tariffs and unspecified additional countermeasures. All of this on social media now, Carl, as we say, in response to that move by the Chinese on rare earths yesterday. Back over to you.
Yep, market clearly doesn't like the tariff conversation, Eamon. We did have, NASDAQ was working on its 33rd record high of the year, now down a full percent. The export controls on rare earths was a story yesterday, Eamon, and the thinking was, this was standard leverage building ahead of the meeting in a few weeks. I'm trying to think of what might have changed between then and today.
Well, I think that the president's reaction to it has changed, right? I mean, the president was busy yesterday. He had a number of things going on. And so maybe this is his first opportunity to really decide what he wants to do. I will point out, Carl, that just if you look at the tone of this, it's a lengthy, and I think you could characterize this as an angry response to the Chinese, but it's also a non-specific response to the Chinese. He's saying there seems no reason to do so with the Xi meeting. So it seems as if that meeting is being canceled, but it's not actually canceling that meeting, and is also threatening a whole host of retaliations here on areas that the United States has monopolies on, but not specifying which ones, threatening a massive increase in tariffs, but not specifying which ones. So I think you could put this in the category of presidential venting right now. It's obviously a sharp reaction to the Chinese move and threatening a bunch of countermeasures, but not actually executing yet on those countermeasures. So for market participants, what you want to watch for is whether there's follow-up to this. Is this just the president sounding off, or are there specific countermeasures that are going to be put in place? And are we going to see?
You're already seeing a bit of a rebound, folks. Rare earth minerals, those stocks are having a hell of a day. USAR, that's up 16.6. S&P, there's your green candle, 665, back up to 667. That happened pretty damn quick across the board. BM&R, BM&R was the stock we were on where we saw this whole thing play out. Starting to also recover, fell to 56, now back at 57. Nvidia almost just went green. These are all algos. This is nothing other than algos. When news like that pops from the president, everything gets taken down. And so Meta was at 740-ish, 735-ish, went down to 720, went all the way to 716. Now it's recovering a little bit. Apple bottomed at 250, now back at 252. So you're seeing at least the markets say, okay, we understand that Trump doesn't like China, but it might not be, as he just said, it might be presidential venting more than anything. And as a result, that might be an opportunity to maybe do a little bit of shopping. The problem is with the idea of buying the dip right here is just that we already know that we're so elevated that any piece of news the market's expecting could take us down. Is this fundamental news that takes the market down? I don't know, which is why it shouldn't be that crazy to take a little bit of a nibble across the market here if you want to buy something, especially with earnings coming up in 2 weeks. But if it escalates and next week Trump's like, nope, I'm holding my ground. I really don't like what China's doing and this, and that. I mean, this is basically a threat. What he put out right here, he wants Xi Jinping to read it and feel threatened. And we're going to have to see how that ends up playing out. But if it escalates, that could be where this potentially goes further. It does feel more like a nothing burger, though. It feels more like a nothing burger. Like what? He's mad at Xi Jinping about rare earth minerals? Okay, like you tell me they're not going to... Yeah, China wants a lot of Nvidia chips. Like you tell me they can't negotiate a deal? You tell me there's not something by the end of the year they can come up with? ETH and Bitcoin just completely fell out once that came out. TLT actually up a little bit. PayPal, that's great. How is Rocket Lab still holding 70, bro? Like, freaking Rocket Lab. It fell for like 2 seconds below 70, came right back. Market did not care when it came to Rocket Lab. Who bought the dip? Put in the chat. What'd you guys buy? Who bought? Grab, I'm waiting below 6. Again, Hood to me is just not really a dip. Amazon's a little bit, 227 to 223. USAR, I mean, that one an MP. Matt says I'm still selling. Yeah, like, look, even if you don't buy the dip take, I don't know if this is a sell. I don't know if this China shit is a reason to sell. I don't think so. Also, some of these aren't even real dips, right? Like we saw these prices 2 days ago. Like Nvidia, Nvidia was at 189 on Monday, got to 195, now it's at 192. That's not a dip by any sense. Palantir 183 is not a dip. AMKR, where are we at on AMKR? AMKR just below 30. So, I mean, if you like this one, it's a little bit below 30, better entry price. Reddit at 208, down 1.6. Some people saying I sold some of my weaker stocks, building some cash. Energy fuels, that one's still running. That is up 11%. All right, let's get a little more coverage on this, and then we'll keep going.
Those additional tariffs. I think that is a kind of wait and see mode right now as both sides are looking to get as much rhetorical leverage as they can. The Chinese side fired their salvo yesterday. The president's firing his salvo right now. What is going to come of this? Can that meeting be saved at APEC in South Korea? I think that's still a possibility given the language here and the vagueness of the threats from the president. But this is clearly an escalation of tensions, and markets obviously don't like that.
Yeah, and it sounds like it also adds to some concern from European allies as well. Germany coming out and saying that China's curbing of the rare earths exports is of great concern there. What do we know in terms of who else is kind of in the same camp as the U.S. with regard to concerns surrounding the move by China?
Well,
and
look,
whether that matters in terms of leverage.
I mean, I think it does matter, and anybody who's importing these rare earths is going to be sensitive to Chinese moves, right? So that's basically everybody who participates in that market in the world. The United States, particularly vulnerable here. And remember, the president has taken a number of steps recently to ensure that the U.S. can continue to produce rare earths, can do the mining and all the things associated with that that are necessary for that industry, because they've been made uneconomic by Chinese subsidies, uneconomic in the United States by Chinese subsidies in China. So the president has been taking action on this front, but this was the Chinese using their leverage yesterday in advance of the U.S. ability to get its own markets up and running. So the Chinese kind of taking advantage here of a vulnerable moment of transition for the United States as the United States tries to get off the Chinese market and into its own market for these things. The Chinese recognizing that they had a limited window, perhaps, and using that leverage while they had it. Now the question is, what does the president mean by massive tariffs? What does he mean by countermeasures? And is this meeting with Xi Jinping actually going to be canceled? I mean, the president's language here says, it seems to be unnecessary to have this meeting. Does that mean it's canceled? Does it mean it's not canceled? Are we going to see the planes fly or not? And I think that's up in the air, certainly right now. There's probably a road back to salvaging that meeting, but this is, the U.S. response right here.
Right. We're looking at a chart of MP.
All right, so market's still affected by this S&P. It got a green candle, now it got a red candle. So it's not, we're definitely not out of the woods. I did buy some grab right there at 598. So picked up a little bit more grab. I don't know. You thought we were making a little bit of progress, but another dollar down on the S&P. We're right back to where Robin had got. It went to 145, got to 148 on the rebound with the S&P. Now it's right back down to 146. So again, it might not be. Amazon was at 223 on the rebound. Amazon 222, trying to get back to its lower levels. It looks like we are retesting the intraday low that we had literally 3 minutes ago, maybe 5 minutes ago. AMD hit 220, then got up to 223. Now it's back down to 220.7. 3 more cents, and it's going to break the intraday low. AMD just broke the intraday low, 220.40. All right, so you're seeing there's that. You see that red candle? Look at that on AMD. Google 241. Open Doors at 5. No way in hell. Open Doors not at $5, dude. It's down 5%. Dude, Open Door at 5 would be aggressive, but Open Doors down 5%. Tesla's down 2. Yep, we are making new lows, folks. We're making new lows. S&P 30 cents, and we make a new low on the S&P for the day. And at the same time, gold is not stopping. What a Friday, bro. What a Friday. Didn't we all think it was a little bit of a boring Friday? Look at gold. Look at that candle on gold. Trump made it a pretty exciting Friday, that's for sure. Goodness gracious, bro. I said buy Open Door at 5. Okay, I got you. I was like, Open Door at 5, dude. $5 is, I think, aggressive for Open Door. I think Open Door is making a base around 7 to 8. I don't think it really has to go that much below 7. But then again, any of these stocks can continue taking some pretty ugly hits. ASTS still holding 85. Can't be too upset about that. And then Rocket Lab, although it's not 70, it's still holding 68. Can't be upset about that. BMNR, is it going to give us a good price? 55.70. I bought at 57 yesterday. I don't know. Let's see how it goes. I'm waiting for the buy the dip tweet. Yeah, we need Trump to tell us when to buy. I rolled too soon. Yeah, dude. Dude, that's the annoying thing about covered calls today. You could have waited 20 more minutes and Trump would have given you the easiest covered call roll if you had just waited. But then again, who knew this was going to happen? All right, now I'm down 95,000. I was down 70. It recovered to 40. Now it's down to 95. So we are making new lows, folks. Now we got to see, when do we bottom? Is there a bottom? S&P, wow, 664. We made a new intraday. It bounced at 664, but we definitely made, before it was 665.15, just like 2 seconds ago, hit 664.68. Bitcoin, are we below 120? Wow, Bitcoin below 120. All right, Friday, October 10th, the China tweet scaring markets across the board. And it's also like, look, Robinhood 153 to 145 is not a dip. I'm not buying that dip, but I also can't be upset because it's still freaking 145. So the question now is, how bad does it get? Is it taking us below the 140s? Are we getting there? Norwegian just dropped below 23. VG's under 10. SoFi still holding 28.15, not that bad. Grab looks like it wants to give up 590. I mean, Tom Lee is calling Xi Jinping right now. Dude, that would be hilarious. That would be freaking hilarious. Someone's got to call Xi Jinping, bro. What did, Trump said he's sending letters to people, threatening them, sending letters to, it seems like Trump got a request from a bunch of countries to put out this tweet. He says some very strange things are happening in China. They're becoming very hostile and sending letters to countries throughout the world that they want to impose export controls on each of them and every element of production having to do with rare earth minerals. Again, the reason why this actually could become very serious, if we don't have rare earth minerals, we're screwed. Like, forget the United States, the entire world is screwed. And right now, China has a lot more than us, which is why we really need to negotiate a meaningful deal with them. And if China is starting to threaten not supplying those, I mean, that's not a good idea. BMNR 55.38. She's falling like a rock. S&P new low 663. 1%. We have not had a 1% down day in 2 months. Or sorry, not 2 months. It was 3.5 weeks. We have not had a 2% down day since April 21st. But it's been about 3.5 weeks since we saw a 1% down day. There you go. The trend is done. October 10th is our 1% down day. Let's see how low it actually goes. Grab's legit dumping. Still not below 590 yet. Nvidia just lost 190. Yeah, this is an everything dump. This is an everything dump today. The only thing that's printing are covered calls today. That's it. CoreWeave 150 to 142. Rocket Lab somehow is holding green. Somehow. Dell right there down 2%. GameStop down 1.5%. Square down 7%. Joby's down 2%. Dude, if you went shopping 5 minutes ago, it's like that technically wasn't the best time to go shopping. Even me, when I bought Grab 2 minutes ago, it wasn't the best time. Like, it's hard to time this stuff, but you are definitely seeing a prolonged drawdown from this China news. We're not getting a bounce on the S&P yet. There was a little bounce at 663. Now it's right back to 663. Amazon down 3. Oh, boy. Where's the Mag 7? Amazon, wow, 220. Hold on. Mag 7. Meta's down 3. Google's down 1. Nvidia's down 2. Tesla's down 3. Amazon's down more than 3. Apple's down 2. And Microsoft's down 1. Goodness freaking gracious, bro. Yeah, heat map just went straight red. Walmart's holding, AbbVie's holding, Netflix is holding, and JP Morgan's holding. VIX over 20. Well, there you go. VIX was freaking below 15 at one point today. My goodness, bro. Look at that. VIX, 23% move on the VIX. Calls on the VIX. Printing. Weeble's down 5%. See, the thing about a large base sell-off is everything gets screwed. Everything. Google lost 240. S&P, she just lost 663. She just lost 663. 662 on the S&P. Grab somehow holding above 590. You would think this would be at 585 by now. Nvidia 188. Palantir loses 180. Hoodie, I don't know if it loses 140, but it might. Fear and greed. Well, we were at neutral. We just entered fear. We just entered fear, which tends to be the time to nibble. 41. We needed this. It's a healthy reset. You know, that's the optimistic side of this. I don't think anyone can say it's not healthy to get a little bit of a pullback and kind of settle into just like the pure day after day momentum that we were saying. Where's all the Bitcoin plays or the data center plays? All of them are still pretty green. Marathon, Riot, and Galaxy go down. Bitfarms is up 9%. Hive's up 1. Wolf is up 3. Iren is holding on to a little bit of green. Cypher is up 1, and then CleanSpark's down 1. Iren just went red. So some of them are holding on, but the rest of them are red. Look at that across the board. Look at the left-hand side of my screen. Everything. S&P is 50 cents away from losing 662. 50 cents away from losing 662. Dude, I don't think buying the dip is like scary here. The problem is we just don't have enough information on where the hell this China thing goes. Because what if next week it escalates? Like, that's a legit concern. What if it escalates? So I don't think it's wrong to buy the dip here. I just did on Grab, right? I don't think it's an issue. The problem is maybe if you have 100K you want to deploy, maybe you deploy like 20K today instead of all 100. And if you miss it next week, then you miss it next week. But if this shit gets worse next week, and again, we barely have any data on this other than Trump's tweet, which was a very long tweet, that's when you would want a little bit more cash for better opportunities if this continues. This is ugly, bro. It just randomly happened. Let me see if I can get some more coverage on this. Randomly taking place on a Friday. Let's go to Bloomberg. Let's see what they have. If they have anything here. Yeah, dude, it's weird. It's weird. Gold is still moving. It's a total rug pull. Total rug pull. If you bought anything this morning, if you rolled any covered calls, complete rug pull based on this shit. Hood down 5%. BMNR 54. Wow. Well, look, I mean, it's not surprising, right? ETH is headed below 4,300, below with 4,200 potentially. 1 tweet is all it takes. BMNR again, 54. Will we get a V recovery here? We were almost getting a V recovery like 5 minutes ago, and then we just made new lows. For us to get a V recovery here, either the algo's got to be like, screw it, it's not that big of a deal, or Trump has to put out some more information about what the hell's going on. And I don't think the market has that information yet. Duolingo, yeah, it could be a dead cat bounce easily. No, Bloomberg's not covering it. Don't have any coverage from Bloomberg. S&P 663. Duolingo 331. That's down 2%. It's a good setup for earnings. You know, in the midst of this, I agree. I agree. It is a good setup for earnings. I just got a text message from the dentist. Hi, Amit. I'm just calling to see how you're feeling after your root canal. Well, lady, I'm down $120,000, so not the best. Sorry, $130,000. Should I actually text that to her? No, I should be like, no, I'm doing okay. It's great. Everything's fine. Duolingo 330. That one's getting hit. How about Quantum? Is Quantum getting hit? QBTS 33. That's down 5. That's down 5. Goodness, bro. This came out of nowhere. But yeah, I agree with what Roan said in the chat, that this is a good setup for earnings, right? Because, I mean, do you really want to have earnings while everything's at all-time highs? No. I mean, you want to have earnings when, you know, Robinhood is not at 155, but Robinhood's maybe at 142 or 140 or 135, and they can actually grow into the valuation if they get the premium on earnings, if they put up an amazing earnings. If they're at 155, it's almost like, hey, how high do they have to go? And maybe they just keep going nuclear, but if they don't, then that's when you tend to get sell-offs after really good earnings. So, I mean, it's not a horrible setup. Maybe Trump is just setting up the Q3 earnings cycle by tanking everything so that companies actually have some room to move. But nonetheless, wow, 662. We just lost it. We just lost 662 on the S&P, 661. Folks, we are down 1.3%. We have not had a 2% day since April 21st. Maybe today is the day. Maybe today is the day. Ugly, bro. Ugly. Dude, our year-to-dates on the market close. Not going to be as good as it was 2 days ago. Oh my gosh, bro. Now it's 140,000 for me. This shit just keeps going. This shit is going down. We are going down. Sam, what the hell's happening?
Dude. Look. When this happened, I was driving my kids to school and then I dropped them off. I pulled over in the road and I'm like, I need to sell some call credit spreads. This is insane right now. Like, I need protection right now. And then, yeah, I mean, that's why I'm late.
I think the S&P wants. I think the S&P wants a 2% down day, dude. It's been 5 months. I mean, it looks like it. Maybe we get it, maybe we don't. But
I sure hope so.
Sam, your audio is a little low. You just pull up the gain or pull it closer to you. I know you're dealing with being a live streamer now. I saw you were struggling a little bit yesterday. You just had there's a lot of comments. You got to deal with a lot of stuff. It's part of the game.
There you go. Have it better now?
Much better. Much better.
Better? Yeah. For some reason, it switches it here. Yeah, that was a crazy stream yesterday. I don't know how you do it.
What are your raw thoughts? This is the headlines for those that haven't seen it. These are the 3 things Trump said. Do you think this is a something burger or a nothing burger?
I think it's a something burger for the market right now. I mean, long term, this is going to blow over. Easily going to blow over. But right now, I mean, market's going up every day. And then you had ETH basically. I pointed this out in the stream yesterday. You had ETH testing the 20-day moving average and the 50-day moving average yesterday, like barely supporting, completely broke it this morning, right? And then now you have, well, I mean, hood charts still look strong. Like a lot of charts look like they're kind of teetering. Amazon, I mean, that just broke down. Like, you thought it was going to be above that, it's going to break that. This is a pretty nasty setup for earnings. Pretty decent setup, but I'm not trying to be a hero right now. Like, there were some crazy moves we all caught in the last few months. You got to know when to stop yourself out in a lot of stuff. I stopped myself out in a bunch of stuff and, just kind of being a little bit cautious right now. I think here on the SP 500, we broke below the 20-day moving average, which is pretty bad for a single day. It's like a weekly engulfing candle. Like, that's terrible. The Qs broke below the 20-day moving average. I don't know, man. You got sentiment up here. It just doesn't take that much for it to come down. And this is a lot. This is a lot for the market to
guys,
take in.
Robinhood Legends being a little bit weird, so I'm going to pull up Webull because it's just kind of lagging out a little bit and not showing some of the stuff. But dude, this is pretty aggressive. I mean, this is the most aggressive day we've had in a while, I would say. I guess from a China perspective, do you think it could accelerate next week if China comes back and says screw you?
Yeah, no, they're going to retaliate. They're going to retaliate. They're not going to let this slide. Is there going to be some concrete retaliation, or is it just going to be mudslinging back and forth? It's going to be mudslinging, dude. It's going to be like just back and forth. But it's not going to be good news for the market. I've been waiting for something like this. I didn't expect it to happen all at once like this, but I've been waiting. And yeah, we could get some opportunity here. I mean, I don't know really what else there's to say with like this particular macro, because it looks like everyone is just as surprised as we are. We got the Qs down here at 596. This thing is just falling off a cliff. And yeah, I hope people sold cover calls because we're just kind of undoing. Like we're trading where we were like 2 weeks ago. We're trading like we were last week. Like it's not
pretty much.
We need this. We need this blood. I know a few people who are very happy about this right now.
I agree. We need this blood. The question is the quality of the blood. like, is this China blood something that could last way longer than expected, or is it kind of just whatever kind of, like?
No,
And
I don't think this is gonna last. This isn't gonna last because like this isn't gonna be concrete. Now, how long is it gonna last for? Well, I mean, I don't know. I would say probably about a month or two. You know how these things like kind of escalate. I think it's gonna escalate, but I think we'll know pretty damn well like when it's pretty much done. We still got a couple weeks till earnings, so this can go on for a couple weeks at least until earnings take a spotlight again, and it likely will. So, is this a dip? Is this a dip?
Well, S&P down 1.5% is a dip, but some individual like Robinhood's not a dip in my opinion, right?
Yeah, no, it's at 142 right now.
It might lose to 140, but that's still not a dip in my opinion. So,
BMR is
okay. Look, if you're long something that's super high beta, you're gonna feel the pain right now.
Yeah,
right. You're gonna feel the pain.
I didn't want Cares though to win, but it looks like they're gonna win. I didn't want Jim Chanos to win either.
Goodness, bro. Why do you think Trump tweeted it? Do you think he's getting pressure from other countries to like fight back against China? Because he did mention a lot of countries are getting these hostile, essentially export control threats from China.
Yeah, so I missed the part where other countries were getting export controls. I haven't been looking for it. So yeah, no, that's what he said. So like, but it didn't make headlines. So like, I totally missed it. I did see the news for the export controls on rare earth materials from China the other day. And to be completely honest, people told me to talk about it and I completely dismissed it like a moron. I guess that was the warning shot, but it just seems like that warning shot is coming to fruition now, and it's probably going to be a bit more important than we think. I don't think this is the type of market where I'm going to like dive in right now and buy the dip hard. Like this is where we were last week. Why? Because the time to buy was in April, May, June, and even July. Those are the times to buy like hard, but we need to have a pullback in order for the next leg higher. I think ultimately we're going to end up higher than this, but man, I am still confident about my 7,500 price target. I'm still confident. I think it's going to happen. We'll see.
No, I do agree with I do agree with you on that. We need to go lower to go higher. I also think him saying I'm canceling my meeting with Xi, either he's serious about that or he's using that as like leverage to try to get a meeting. Yeah, it's a threat.
It's a threat.
But it's not good for the end of the year for the two biggest leaders of the biggest economies to not have a meeting, given they've been in a trade war for a year, right?
It's not good. It's not good. I was caught completely flat-footed today. I was watching your stream. I was literally dropping my son off at preschool, and I was listening to you in 1 year, and like I hear you like freaking out. And I'm like, man.
Well, no, because we pulled it. Someone asked a question about BM&R. I pulled it up. It was at 58, and it drops to 56.50 in front of us in like 2 seconds. And I'm like, Ethereum's going down. But then everything started tanking. Oh, this is bigger than that.
I'm not trying to catch this knife. I'm not kidding around. I'm not trying to catch this knife. In fact, we broke that 20-day, so we might have reversed a strong medium-term bull trend. And when we do that, I like to sell short-term rips. So, but that's from a trading perspective. Long-term perspective, dude, I'm not buying anything right now. Like, there's nothing.
S&P 660, it's down 1.5. It bounced off 659.
Recovery.
Yeah, I got a little recovery. Let me get a bit more coverage on this, and then we will keep going from there.
On China. Joining us this morning, Jeff Moon, founder of China Moon Strategies, former assistant U.S. trade rep for China Affairs. Jeff, it's good to have you back. Thanks for coming to the line.
Thank you.
Do you think this moment was inevitable?
I think so. I think we need to really step back. This is all part of the bargaining process. Both the U.S. and China, I think, want to somehow get together and reach some kind of an accommodation without resolving all of the trade disputes. From the Chinese perspective, in the meantime, the U.S. has been increasing measures against China, for example, adding companies to the entity list, and there's a lot of rumbling in Congress about additional export controls. And the Chinese, I think, wanted to draw the line and say, stop it. Let's start bargaining here. So what the Chinese have done is pursued several goals. One is, frankly, retaliation. They are mirroring, with their rare earths measures, they are mirroring how the U.S. treats semiconductors. The U.S. foreign direct product rule says that any element of a semiconductor that has American technology enables the U.S. to regulate all of those semiconductors. And the Chinese are doing the same thing with our rare earths. The Chinese are also trying to pursue their usual strategy of divide and conquer, which means that they are trying to get pressure on the U.S. government from semiconductor companies and perhaps from other countries as well, to get the U.S. to soften some of the measures that are out there. The Chinese are also trying to pursue their goal of self-sufficiency. I don't buy the argument that we need to sell the Chinese because we'll get them addicted to technology, because they have always said they want to be independent and develop their own technologies. So that's not valid to me. And they want to get the U.S. to relax tech restrictions as well. So there are lots of goals that are going there. The question is, what are the real intentions? I think the Chinese want U.S. chips, despite what they say. And I think Trump wants to go to meet them in Korea, despite what he says. So nothing has happened that is irreversible here. Right. This is all snarling and bearing fangs at each other. And I suspect that that things are going to calm down. Trump's threat to impose massive tariffs is a hollow threat, because he exhausted his ability to impose massive tariffs months ago, back in April. And I think the talks will resume and they'll reach some kind of accommodation.
I think that's also pretty fair analysis. I mean, at the end of the day, these guys, I don't think, want to keep their economies against each other.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's not a nothing burger. At least there's not enough information out there to decide or determine whether it's a nothing burger right now, other than there's, of course, price action and a single story tweet from Trump. This is going to develop over the weekend. We don't know. We just don't know, and the market hates uncertainty. And you just served it a big plate of uncertainty, delivered straight via DoorDash, and it got it, and it does not like it. So frothy names are going to get sold. I'm actually surprised, like, data center names are still super strong,
dude.
Like, I'm not complaining. But dude, Baba is down, or was down 7%. So China names are getting sold off. In fact, Alibaba broke the 20-day moving average this morning, but it was like
160.
That looked like that. I saw this around like $180 something, and I was thinking about shorting it. I should have. I was thinking about shorting it. But if there is one side that's going to be impacted by this a lot, it's going to be China tech.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because they need our chips. Like, they need our chip. It's very clear they need our chips. It's not like the export controls came off, and then there was all this stuff when it came to chip buying. We got the $49 billion chip manufacturing that China's trying to do, regardless of the export controls, which means that China's trying to invest a lot of money into their own chip supply chain and fabrication build out. $49 billion is a lot of money, right? So they're in a rush to do it, and then this is like basically cutting them off from that whole system. Like, Trump's probably going to go for the neck on this one. He's going to go for the jugular on it. He's not going to go for their head. He's going to go for what's supplying them here, right? So the other way around.
Let me ask a question. Do you think? Put in the chat as well. Do you think this issue that we've discovered in the past 20 minutes could mess up the bull market for the end of year? If you had to put a percentage chance, put in the chat, percentage chance this would mess up the 7,000 S&P that people are thinking could happen.
I don't think it will.
There's a 0% chance.
I don't think there's a chance. We have earnings coming up. If those earnings are good, then it doesn't matter what happens here, right? Like, the sentiment's going to come back. In fact, I think it might actually fuel the bull market if this does end up blowing over. So
yeah.
Like, if this blows over, we're ending up higher than we were before he tweeted this.
Well, I'll give it a 1% chance. I don't want to say 0, but there's always a chance that this escalates dramatically, but it feels like it's posturing more than anything.
That was a binary question. I thought you
No,
were
a
asking
percentage
yes or
chance.
no.
If you have to put a
percentage, I would say 15%. But I
think 10 to 15% is reasonable if it escalates. If it's just him posturing to get a better conversation with Xi in South Korea whenever they meet, then it's just Trump being Trump at the end of the day.
I don't think it's going to escalate. I mean, I don't think it's going to actually escalate to something concrete. I think it's going to escalate, but I think it's just going to be words. I don't think it's going to be anything where, hey guys, the bull market's canceled. I don't think it's going to be like that.
Oh, you're getting some green candles. S&P, there's that green at 663. Grab back to 6. So 590 buys were not too bad. Rocket Lab trying to get back to 70. Hoodie 142 to 145. Oklo, that one. It barely had a dip.
That was up. I didn't know that was up 13% today. That's insane.
No, it was up more, but now it's it was at 161. Now it's at 156. So
I mean, is data center really impacted by this? I kind of makes sense, right? Why we wouldn't sell off data center and energy stocks is because the AI narrative is still strong. It's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Right. I don't see it going anywhere. And you have some I think the market is looking long term with a lot of these high beta plays. Obviously, if the market takes a hit, it will take a hit, but it needs to take a meaningful hit, for there to be dramatic fundamental damage to the entire storyline. If this circular investing theme or circular investing thesis actually starts to become a little true, these stocks will get hit. Because we're talking about malinvestments with a lot of these companies that are running hot. Correct. But if we're just talking about export controls, dude, it's man, we've been down this road before. We know it's going to be fine.
Yeah, and again, China, Iran's data centers China doesn't have an impact on that. So I think you have
no, that's all domestic.
It's all domestic. Bitmine from 53 to 56. Bitfarms just below 5. Oracle just below 300. Applied Digital, it was up 35. Now it's up 18, but still a great day.
That sucker was up 35. Oh, no, it was at 35. Okay.
No, it was up 35% too. It was at 30.
Hey, I welcome this bounce. Let's go.
It was at 38.
Let's go.
The meme stock ETF just went green. There you go.
There is risk on, apparently. Apparently it's risk on, but I'm not chasing it.
Look, here's the thing. Again, 30% of fund managers have not matched their benchmarks this year. So, I mean, this has got to be a day where they are salivating at buying something so they don't have to chase.
That's the thing. Yeah, that's the whole thing behind this. In fact, there's do you know the NAIM exposure index?
Yes.
Yeah, so that came in at about 84 last week. The average is around 85, but anytime you get close to 100, that's okay, fund managers are short term, a little bit over allocated, or they're not a margin. But if they're on margin, then that would be crazy. But we weren't there yet, so how much can we possibly sell at this point? That's why I'm about 10 to 15% is going to ruin the bull market, because it's like you're saying, they're waiting for this dip, and the dips are getting bought hard, right? I might go grab some Mercy Tequila. Dude, I might go grab some Mercy Tequila. Oh, shit. I'm about to go to Disneyland tomorrow. Don't screw on my... Where's Disney at? You're
going to Disneyland? Dude, okay. How much is that costing a family of what? 4 or 5? Is that $5-6 grand?
Let's just say all my gains for this week is going down the gutter because of this damn trip. But Disney's at $110.
You're helping out Mickey Mouse.
I'm helping out the top line for this company. I don't know if it's gonna do much, but man, people still gotta kick it with Mickey. That's not happening. That's not gonna change anytime soon. Yeah. Oh man, that's a crazy trade. Go to UUUU.
Energy Fuels. Yeah, that's been great today.
Damn, Stock Talk is killing it with that thing.
By the way, BLS says CPI October 24th. So we will be getting CPI, folks. I thought it would be next week. It's going to be in 3 weeks. So we will be getting CPI, which is good, but it's going to take some time to get that data. We were supposed to get it next week.
Just got back from an 8,000 euro Disney trip. Did you stay at did you hang in Mickey's suite or something? How did you spend 8,000 euros on a trip? You know what? Okay. I could see
Dude,
that.
it's Disney, bro. The kids want the stuffed animals
man.
and the good food.
Have you been to Disney before?
We went to Disney World when I was like 10 years old, a long time ago.
Okay.
But I haven't been there since then. Palantir 180, that's a little bit of a V shape. S&P still down 1.25. It was down 1.7. So that 2% red day, maybe we avoid it today.
Yeah,
You are getting a bounce.
That would have been nice to have like a deep red day, just to like shake all the fraud. Whoa, the VIX is above 20. Oh, it was above 20.
Bro, what if Trump is upset that he didn't get the Nobel Peace Prize, and that's why he did this?
No, I don't think so.
What if that's the reason?
I don't think he's gonna get Nobel Peace Prize. Who votes for that stuff anyway?
I have no idea.
You know, I gotta be honest. I'm looking at this VIX chart. That was a massive spike. These people got a cover now.
Yeah, usually when VIX has a spike like that, it tends to
Yeah.
signal a little bit of a top, you know? Or
Yeah,
sorry,
I
it
totally
signals,
get it.
it tends to signal a bottom once that happens.
Yeah,
Look at that.
it does tend to signal a bottom when the VIX does that. Like, that's a pretty insane candle for the VIX. Look back in May 23, the VIX had a huge pop, but I don't know. I really don't know what to make of it. This is the reason why I'm not like trying to dive in, because like I don't know what to make of this. My brother said new all-time highs tomorrow. That's how much he thinks this is bullish.
Well, tomorrow the market closed. So
I know that's why. That's how bullish he is. He said new all-time highs tomorrow.
All right,
We'll
put in
see,
the chat what you've bought. If you bought anything, put in the chat. If you sold anything, put in the chat. Also, Monday, Sam, the market's closed, right?
No, not the market. The stock market is open, but banks are closed, which means treasuries are closed, and bond markets are closed, and there's like other markets that are closed too. But the stock market this is basically another Good Friday where the bond market is closed, but the stock market's open.
Okay. So we will have a market open, but you do have banks that are closed. Looking through the chat, I see some people saying that they're selling a decent amount of stuff. Some people are saying I sold HIMS, bought BMR, bought Grab, bought SoFi, bought Tesla, bought Poet, bought Open Door. That was at 770, still at 770.
I got a position open. Like I gotta stick with Shopify in this one. I think it's gonna come back, but it's a YOLO bet. It's a YOLO bet.
Shopify still down 4%. I see Metas. I see Amazon's. Amazon got below 220. Now it's right back above. I see IRENs. I see a lot of BMNRs. JD, Adobe. All right, dude. People bought the dip. I mean, people put some money in. And now I guess next week we're going to find out how much this escalates or if it really is a nothing burger.
Can you imagine if, well, I don't think we're going to close green today. I think we're probably going to close maybe a little bit.
Imagine if we do close green today, dude.
If we close green today, I'm going to be completely shocked. I like the relentlessness of the market lately has been insane. But if we close green today with no development in this news, I'm going to be like completely shocked. Like it is time to get back in some Amazon Leafs if that happens.
No, if this is a test for the market on how resilient it is, and we somehow, maybe we don't close green, but we get very close to green. I mean, that just goes to show you how much demand is on the sidelines that was salivating for some type of opportunity. And it happened.
I mean, it would be nice to get at least a 2% down day on the market, or maybe at least 3.5% pullback in the market since April. It'll be nice to get that, but I don't know. I'm looking at this chart, dude. It doesn't look like it's happening. It looks like people are buying the dip hand over fist. Hey, so I don't want to like direct a story, but like we could talk about a lot of stuff. But I was just curious why you're bullish AppLovin here.
No, I did it as a trade. I bought and I sold it.
Oh, okay. I thought you were buying long term over here.
And I literally bought it at 578. I sold it at 600. Honestly, the reason
nice.
I sold it because I lost $1,000 on the freaking Chiefs, and I woke up in the pre-markets and my AppLovin buy was up $1,000. I was like, I'm making my money right back. So
the revenge trading.
Yeah, it literally was revenge trading. But Look, I think if they do $7 billion in EBITDA next year, it's probably a $350 billion company that's trading at $200 billion. But obviously, there's risk with the SEC stuff. That's
I think a lot of that is priced in.
It could be.
These are adjusted EBITDA margins. We got to keep that in mind. But I'm not going to discount it, right? Like they're still growing even on those adjusted EBITDA metrics. But I mean, the thing was that $800 plus going from $200. And I'm not going to say it's because of the price, but at a certain point, you look at the financials and then you look at the estimates, and it's like, how much more do they have to beat this to beat the estimates, right? Like this is getting to the point where like they have to really beat the estimates when it comes to AppLovin. And on top of that, like you mentioned, the SEC probe, like that's kind of an overhang that sticks with companies for quite some time. Like that's not going to be resolved anytime soon. And I'm not saying that the company's going to go south. I'm just saying that you have a probe overhang on the company, which we saw with Google for a long time, and that's why Google was trading below the 25 PE for years until the EU came out with their decision. This isn't really the same thing as that, but like you have a potential overhang on a stock. It kind of puts a little bit of a cap on it, where the market's kind of waiting to see what happens. Plus, if you look at the other ad tech names that have been running pretty hot, like Reddit as well, it kind of says that the market's taking a little bit of a breather in this entire industry.
Up, Sam, we got some breaking news. This China stuff not going away. China has opened up a probe into Qualcomm.
Oh, jeez.
At this point, as investors digest what's looking like collateral damage in this escalating trade war between the U.S. and China. Beijing's latest move is opening an antitrust investigation into Qualcomm's acquisition of Autotalks, an Israeli company that builds vehicle-to-vehicle communication tech. Now,
Okay, you guys are saying that it came out this morning. I'm finding it out right now, but I think this goes to Trump's point of just like escalations with the country. They had a probe on Nvidia a couple weeks ago as well, and it's definitely not good for relations for them to keep probing American companies.
Yeah, that happened this morning.
But China now says that Qualcomm may have violated anti-monopoly rules. The company wasn't immediately available for comment, but it supplies chips to major Chinese brands like Xiaomi, and that business could now be in jeopardy. And Beijing isn't just signaling tougher enforcement here. It is staking out a new front in the U.S.-China tech war. Last month, this same Chinese regulator accused Nvidia of breaching antitrust law over its Mellanox deal from 2020. And according to the FT, China has now barred key domestic firms from buying AI chips from Nvidia altogether. And this pressure campaign comes at a pivotal moment. Just this hour, you discussed President Trump firing a salvo back, threatening to call off his meeting this month with President Xi after China unveiled export curbs on rare earth minerals, essential inputs for defense systems and semiconductors. And it all marks a sharp escalation in the tech and trade showdown between Washington and Beijing, especially as Chinese AI leaders like Alibaba and Baidu reportedly doubled down on homegrown semiconductors after months of U.S. export bans on advanced Nvidia and AMD chips. So in that context, this is less about monopoly law and more about China accelerating its break from American tech. Guys?
So that was going to be my question, Mac, was just how self-sufficient China is becoming when it pertains to.
So yeah, the Qualcomm stuff was from this morning, but I think it kind of speaks to Trump's tweet as well about how annoyed he is about what's happening with China. Nebi is still holding on to a lot of strength, down from 141, but still 137. Sam, any thoughts on the resiliency of this one?
Dude, I mean, Jason was here on Tuesday, right? He called it the short-term play, right? So I think the long-term is still intact with this company. Medium-term, I don't know. Short-term, I mean, that sucker bounced hard off the 110 levels. Again, this comes back to what I was saying before as far as like data center. Like, how is this impacted with all of this? In fact, it's probably better because it means more onshoring. You get more demand for building data centers here. It means that you need the materials a lot faster. You need a lot more of it. And then you're going to need a lot of the chips built in the U.S. just to lower margins. So I don't see how this is going to be heavily impacted.
Going to your point about data centers, take a look at this. OpenAI, $25 billion data center project in Argentina.
What?
Goodness gracious, bro. OpenAI, that just came out from a letter from the Argentinian government. Wow, look at this. Malay, he's with representatives of OpenAI.
Dude, Malay's the man.
500 megawatts $25 billion, largest scale infrastructure initiative in the history of Argentina. My goodness.
So bullish.
It's like the Trump's China tweets just can't really have that much of an impact when you have that type of tailwind, at least on data centers. So, all right, that's what you got.
Yeah, it's so funny.
That is what you got. All right, so final thoughts for Sam from you. Ultimately, to buy the dip. That's your take.
No, no, not here. This is not a buy the dip hand over fist for me. Definitely not. Definitely not. In fact, I would put in some protection over the weekend. Nothing too crazy, just some hedges. I put on some hedges just in case. I took a look at some weak stocks on the board and I put some hedges on it just in case something happens. But I'm not like selling things dramatically. I cut some short-term plays off. But other than that, like, dude, 7,500, baby. 7,500. Let's go.
All right, there you go. Sam, thank you. There's Sam's Twitter right there in the chat. You can check him out. And yeah, dude, I mean, real quick before you leave, how was the live stream experience yesterday?
Dude, you know what? Your audience, I'm pretty sure I got a lot of your audience attending only because I've never seen that many people attend live to my stream. I think I usually hit like maybe 150, 200 in a live stream. There were like 2,000 people there. Like, that was extremely insane. And it was funny because I was fumbling so many things. Like, I took a clip of your cowbell, and I use Restream, so it's a little bit different. It doesn't automatically share the sound as soon as you share the screen. So I didn't have the sound enabled.
Oh, you had sound issues? Tell me about it.
No, I had the sound issue on the clip that I played of you ringing the cowbell when the market opened, because that was my intention to do it. But then, like, it wasn't bringing the system audio to the stream.
Yeah.
So like,
it happens. It happens.
Yeah, it happens. But also, I was also anticipating that Powell's speech was going to be something important. The dude didn't even attend the community bank conference. It was a recorded clip of him and I was like, that was the most nothing burger I've ever seen. But I'm glad the market didn't like fall off a cliff yesterday. That would have been a nasty stream.
Yeah, you wouldn't have been able to leave early, bro. You would have had to stay on and analyze.
I had to leave. My kids were coming up. I didn't pronounce any words. I didn't mispronounce any words. Thank goodness. Appreciate it, guys. You guys are awesome. I mean, I love coming on here. Just, it's the energy. I think it's the energy that's just the very exciting part. And yeah, man, you're back at it strong. For some reason, I thought you were having a wisdom teeth removed because I was like, oh, this dude's gonna be out for weeks. Yeah, root canal. It's not bad. I had a root canal.
Yeah. I love it. Sam, thank you so much. There's Sam's YouTube. Everyone, please make sure to subscribe to him, and we'll get you on next week.
All right. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Later. He played a muted cowbell. Dude, we got to watch that later. That's great. Dude, it's what happens when you're live, right? Anything could happen. Just random shit happens. He probably had no idea the cowbell would be muted, and then boom. Like, it's just part of the live streaming experience. But S&P, folks, that V shape, it's going back down. We got up to 663. We're right back down to 660. Goodness gracious. Goodness freaking gracious. Right back down to 660. It, like, every pseudo V shape, not full V shape, but like 30% recovery V shape has just been drawn out, or has just been taken down within 10 minutes of it making the V. So basically today we went from 670 down to 665, then back up to 668. That is when people thought, oh, that's the V. Then we come down to 660. Then we get up to 663. That's when people are like, oh, that's the V. Now we're right back down to 660. If we break below 660 and we see 659, maybe, recovery to 662 would be the quote unquote pseudo V. But we're down. We are down 1.6%. Robina was at 148, right back down to 144. BMNR was at 56, right back down to almost, yeah, there you go, below 55. It's pretty incredible. Back and forth this market is going. So, anyone who bought the dip today, it's almost just like you just don't know how to time it. You really just got to close your eyes and buy if you want to get exposure, because, trying to get the actual bottom here is tough. It is tough. Sam didn't even realize the cowbell was muted. I got to go back and watch that. I gotta go. I got to see that. Where's oil prices? Oil's down 3% across the board. I mean, again, oil being down is good, but not for the right reasons. Gold price, 4,018. Gold still holding up. And then you got silver. That's also not stopping. Let's try to get a little bit more coverage here and see what we've got going on.
Because as Rob said, we've been fixated on AI. We've been thinking about earnings and how good they're going to be and the fact that the Fed's cutting interest rates. But we're, certainly reminded right in our faces today that these issues still exist. An issue with the most, fierce competitor that we have, I think, globally on trade.
So we're only down 1.3% on this news. That I think is encouraging. And I think that is because if you step back, first and foremost, you have to assume that cooler heads will prevail. We have a little bit of time between now and when maybe Xi and Trump will meet. So we've got probably 2 weeks of noise. That's okay. We're looking for opportunities to be buying the noise because of all the things you just said. Better economic growth, decent consumer, AI renaissance, good earnings. Earnings are going to be very good. And the good news is on Tuesday, we start to get earnings. And which I think the banks are going to be very strong. And you're looking for opportunities though. So to only be down 1.3% in the face of all of this, I think that's actually encouraging, and it speaks to people wanting to buy the dip. And I think that they will, and I think they should.
Well, I mean, it's been a pretty quick reversal as you're looking on the screen. Right now, it's 1.5%.
But now, now it's back down to 661 or 660. I mean, you try to call a reversal, and then it just goes right back down to not easily get that reversal. I don't know. My playbook is, look, if you have, hypothetically, if you have 100,000 waiting to buy the dip, I think you put 10,000 in today. I don't think you go, 75,000 out of that 100,000 you look to buy. Maybe you do 25, maybe you do 25% of it because dips do get bought up pretty easily in this market. But I think the reason it's not like, oh my goodness, yes, just like pile in, is because we just don't know what's going to happen next week in terms of Trump and China. Like, is this going to escalate or not? Now, I think there's some pretty good odds that this is a nothing burger, and then maybe this is a go all in type of moment. But it's also not like you're getting the best deals out there. Again, I don't think Robinhood at 145 is a deal. I don't think SoFi at 27 is really a deal. Now, SoFi at 20, Robinhood at 125, like that, then we're talking about, all right, like even I would be like, I am aggressively buying this, and I don't even care what the reason is. But 1.5% on the S&P is not really creating that nasty of a dip, but it is nastier than what we've seen over the past couple of weeks. S&P 661. 661. Yeah, TLT is also doing okay, which means the 10-year is coming down. I mean, that is very encouraging. Investors buying bonds right here, not selling them off, which is something you want to see. I mean, 4.067 is the lowest it's been all week. You can get that below 4%. That'd be amazing. All of this is still happening during a shutdown. That's correct as well. And yeah, the market should be used to Trump tariff news. I mean, like, dude, do we really think he's putting on tariffs again? Really? Like that part is the part I completely don't believe in the tweet. The part I do think there's an issue with is the rare earth mineral stuff, because we really do need rare earths. And if China's being hostile, that could create some volatility. But threatening tariffs again, I just think it would be undoing, dude, all the progress with TikTok. Like, tariffs would just undo everything that has been good over the past couple of months with China. And then AI data centers are not slowing down either. I mean, Sam made a great point that China doesn't really have that much of an impact on those either. I did buy Grab already. So we took advantage of that dip. BMNR is the one that I kind of want to buy, given, where's ETH? It's a nasty candle on ETH though, bro. It's $130 away from being below 4,000. Goodness, dude. It's pretty wild to see how crypto just collapsed. And then Rocket Lab, you're almost back at 70. Even Nebius, barely making a budge down. I already bought AMKR, dude. I have the best timing. I bought it at $30.50. And wonderfully, it comes down. But then again, anything you bought in the morning, you get hit on. 29. Great. Absolutely amazing timing. Phenomenal. Well, if you were looking for an entry, if you are interested, there you go. But you know, it's anything. You could have bought anything this morning. Anyone who bought anything this morning, whether you're an algo, a retail investor, or an institution, you're getting hit because I don't think anyone saw this come through from Trump. Let's get a little bit more coverage here, and then we'll keep going.
Pullback, whether this is the beginning of anything, who knows? We'll watch. Dow's down almost 600 points. I do think it speaks pretty loudly to the complacency that's been in the marketplace about almost anything outside of the positives to AI, rate cuts, the economy, and whatever else you want to throw into that basket.
During the entire opening of the show, you're the first person to mention rate cuts. And I feel like that's the thing that's in tandem with the AI enthusiasm is when you've got a rate cutting cycle, it's like, what else could the stock market wish for? So to Stephanie and Jason's point, if there's a pullback today, I think there's opportunity there. Kind of pivoting to what you say, Rob, if you look at 22 plus forward earnings, which for old people like us, like that's pretty out of control, but it's a handful of names that are buoying the entire markets. So if you lose the AI enthusiasm, Scott, or if the Fed backs off of the rate cuts, even more so than tariff talk, that could be the reset that I would be a little bit nervous about, where maybe instead of 22, you go down to 20, and now you're 600-700 points off the S&P.
Well, I mean, you're talking about a game changer scenario for the markets. Those are sort of dramatic risks that would be out there and that would have to roll for the market to have a significant problem. I mean, even with the pullback, we can look at Nvidia. We're not that far away for $5 trillion in market cap. Now, this bit of upset is obviously front and center for us as we come on the air for you. So we're at 189. We need 205. So, maybe we get that in earnings. Maybe we don't. But that's been one of the stories there. There's, Morgan Stanley positive on that name. AMD's best week since 2016. You've got the Qualcomm news that Mackenzie Sigalos was talking about earlier, where China opening this antitrust probe there. So there's just a lot of tension bubbling back over the surface as we see today. Rob, you have Qualcomm. Jason does too. I'm just curious, as you think about all this playing out, if the meeting between the president and President Xi wasn't supposed to be for a couple weeks. So if you get more rhetoric between the two sides, or at least from this end, what that might mean for the market as it looks ahead to a potential meeting between the two.
You make an important point. What is the breaking of the linkage that we've seen? The linkage between AI CapEx, equity markets, the U.S. consumer, and the U.S. economy. There's a positive and virtuous feedback loop going on. AI capital spend fuels earnings. Earnings fuel positive stock performance. Positive stock performance fuels the large, the wealth.
That was CNBC. That wasn't me. Even these guys don't have their phones off. That was not me. That was them.
Wealthiest U.S. consumers that are exposed to the market, and that fuels the economy. So anytime you're going to see something that challenges the break in that link, and specifically challenges it in the areas that have done really well, although Qualcomm has lagged quite a bit because of its exposure to China, you're going to have a situation where you get a dramatic pullback, especially in the names that have participated quite a bit. So
all right, so S&P 661, basically the talking heads are saying this is a buy the dip. But they're saying it cautiously because, again, no one knows how dramatic this could become. I think, let's do a poll right here in the chat. Let's do a poll. Let's do some options on this poll. Same question I asked Sam, which is, realistically, I think there's not that big of a chance, but it's worth asking. 60% of you said this is a nothing burger. 40% said something. What are the probabilities that this ruins the end of year? Probability this ruins end of year. Let's go 10%, 25%, 50% plus, under 10%. What do we think? I think I spelled probability wrong, but dude, I'll go 10%. I think it's reasonable to say there's some risk. I want to say below 10%, but then again, I feel like that's getting a little too arrogant. That was a long ass tweet. It looked like they probably wrote up that tweet last night. They knew they were going to put it out there. They knew they wanted to send a message to China, and he put the message out. 38% of you say under 10%. 30% of you say 10%. 24% say 25%. Almost equal. Obviously, the majority of you saying under 10%. I think with earnings growth and an easing Fed, bro, like, okay, China's whatever, but at the end of the day, you know, Meta, Nvidia, they put up good earnings. It's hard to be super, super bearish. Are they trading at egregious multiples? No, I wouldn't think so. Now, is some of the other companies like an Oklo trading at egregious multiples? Yeah, they're not going to have earnings anyway, so we don't have to worry about them. But it's not like Meta's at $1,000 and earnings won't even be able to help them. So I think if anything, this actually, to Sam's point, this sets up a good earnings cycle, because you're going to get beat and raises across the board, and stocks should hopefully get a little bit of a boost if that happens. We still haven't seen a lot of data due to the shutdown. Yeah, BLS confirming October 24th, they'll give us CPI, so at least we're getting that. But, you know, if we don't end the shutdown by October 24th, that would not be a good thing. I mean, there could be a negotiated deal with the Democrats and Republicans before the 15th. That could be just a natural tailwind for equities and just for like stability. But then if you have the geopolitical instability, that's where you kind of get the back and forth in terms of how this market's going to try to deal with it. Amit, do you think we reached the bottom? I have no idea. S&P has been bouncing. Look, we're at 661. We bounced from 659. This is a little bit of a V. It's not a massive V, but it's a little bit of a V. Does that one get back down to 659? If it does, then this is not the bottom. Enzo, thanks for the super chat. I bought 2,000. So I'm down 2,000 shares on AMKR, or I'm down $2,000 on AMKR because it's down $1, which is phenomenal. But I bought 2,000 shares at, I think, $30.80. Amazing timing. Incredible timing. SJ, thanks for becoming a channel member. Appreciate you. John, thanks for becoming a channel member. Smit, thanks for becoming a channel member. I have your name except for the S. I have the A. So pretty cool. Thank you for being here. Arun, thanks for the $10. Shouldn't chip profits go down if it's more expensive to get rare earth minerals? Decreasing profits from the entire sector. I don't see why crypto or rare earth metal companies would dip, though. Okay, so theoretically, yes, if the rare earth metals play a crucial role in the overall supply chain for data centers and chips, that could create some margin issues. I think a lot of the contracts that like an Iran already has nothing to do with building or buying new GPUs, but using their existing GPUs, and that shouldn't have any impact. Because at the end of the day, they have the facility, they have to stand it up, and then they carry out the project that they've been licensed for. So that shouldn't have an impact. But yeah, in the future, I mean, look, rare earth minerals are in everything that we use, especially around electronics. And so it's very vital that we get a deal with China on this. Tesla right here is about to go below 420. And, you know, if China cuts off rare earth metals and minerals, and then you have, you know, Taiwan, that becomes a topic of discussion. I mean, that's where things can go south really quick. And I don't think that's going to happen. But I think Trump putting out this tweet is trying to hedge against that scenario even taking place. But having said that, we were running hot for 3 months. And so if something was going to take the market down and they're going to use Trump's negativity around China to take the market down, then there was going to be some reason. I guess this is just a perfect storm that happened to pop up on a Friday. But it's not like any of us could be too surprised about a little bit of a drawdown. S&P, there you go, 660, lost 661. Let's see if it actually loses 659 or if it can bounce up and if we hit a new intraday low. When do you like Bitmine? I really like it at 50 more than anything. My average is like 47, so I would like it a little lower if ETH is on a downspin. Also, dude, over the weekend, crypto algos are so stupid. So like Monday, we could wake up and Bitmine's at 49 if Ethereum takes a $300 dip, which it really, I mean, it could. It could go up 300, it could go down 300. Ethereum, $108 away from losing 4,000. This was at 4,700 2 days ago. All of its momentum gone. And it was already being lost before the Trump tweet. And that thing hurt it even more. Yeah, Trump is speaking at 5 p.m. in the Oval Office. I'm assuming he'll probably comment on this China stuff, but it's supposed to be for pharma. Hood is holding up pretty strong at 145. I mean, you would think it would drop below 140. It's still down 5%, but 145 is not too bad. And then Tesla's still at 420. I mean, look, today's also a good day to sell puts. If you don't want to buy BMR at 54, or you want to buy it at 45, put premiums. These are the days where put premiums spike up because people are buying protection. They're willing to pay more for it. You could sell them that protection. But then you just got to be okay with getting assigned at whatever level you get. Oh boy. Amit, what are you doing about Misty? I'm just holding and waiting for Bitcoin to recover. And if it does, I think MicroStrategy will be okay. Wow, MicroStrategy, 311. But until Bitcoin makes new highs, MSTR is going to be flattened, and so will Misty. Fermi's up 10%. Really? It's up 10%. Wow. Dude, Energy Fuels, Centrus Energy, all these is like, was there an announcement around nuclear energy today that I missed? Like, why are all of them, especially Oklo, moving today? Like, did Trump say something about the, like, I know they've been really big winners, but on a day when the S&P is down almost 2%, nuclear stocks are the one that are still up 15 to 20% on the day. Like, what exactly is the market thinking about here? Energy Fuels is rare earth minerals. Okay, that could be a reason, but it's the entire sec. Is SMR going green? Yeah, dude, SMR is green as well. All these guys. Nano still up 2%. VIX, are we below 18? We are still above 20. Are we still above 20? Yeah, we're still above 20, dude. That thing fell. Look at that. It went from 20 to 19. That's when the S&P bounced up to 664. And now we're right back to 20. S&P is right back down to 660, which is giving people an opportunity to buy again if they missed that 660 low, if the VIX is potentially signaling a bottom here. What a Friday, dude. What a freaking Friday. Fear and greed is at freaking 34. That's hilarious, bro. That's actually hilarious. I mean, look, fear and greed is telling you to buy something. Fear and greed is telling you to buy something. I was down 170. Now I'm down 115. So we did have a bit of recovery on the port. But still, it's not as bad as it was at the height of it. It's still pretty ugly for most people today. Yeah, we talked about the Oklo price target. We also talked about how they use 2050 in their DCF. But that came out yesterday. So the Oklo price target came out yesterday. I don't know why it's up today, 15%. I don't know this. I didn't expect this. I didn't expect it today. I didn't expect Trump to come out with this today. All right, let's do one more poll before we end out the show today. For end of day, green, red, or let's do 0.5% down S&P. And let's do 1% down. So green is we have a full recovery. Red is basically 1.5% down, like just full on no recovery, like it is right now. 0.5% is we've recovered a decent chunk, which would be very bullish. And then only 1% would be some moderately bullish. Green, I don't know if we end up green, bro. For us to go back green today, it would be incredible. If we end out red, then that's probably pushing 2% down, which maybe power hour turns into a more negative move to the downside. Grab back above 6. I mean, but see, like 10 minutes ago, we had these green candles pop up and then they got hit. Maybe third time's a charm. S&P 662 just bounced off 660. Maybe we see if this gets hit or not. Green on a day like today would be crazy, right? Yeah. Where's VG? You guys are complaining about Fidelity, bro. I mean, Robin has not been the best today, but a lot of people right here are complaining about Fidelity. VG still at $10. Still at $10. Puts on VIX dropping back down are cheap. That is correct. Buying a little bit of downside on the VIX is definitely cheaper right now. Circle, that's down 6. AppLovin still down 4. AppLovin basically at the price where I bought it at a couple days ago before I sold. AMD 219, that lost 240. And then S&P, it was pushing 663 like 10 seconds ago. Did I mention that? Now it's right back to 660, 170. Dude, what a wonky market back and forth. I don't think people can make up their mind. I don't think people can make up their mind on this today. Wild. Oh, we got a quote from China's Commerce Minister. U.S. fees on Chinese ships hurt Chinese firms' interests. We hope the U.S. will correct wrong practices against China's countermeasures as we are taking legitimate defense actions. Okay, so the China Commerce Ministry is upset about fees on Chinese ships, which they've been upset about that all year, but it looks like today they're making more public their concerns about that. Then you had the Qualcomm probe, and then you got the Trump tweet. So a lot of back and forth with China and the United States. Even if that's from this morning, I mean, like, it just goes to show how annoyed they are at each other. But see, like, they can't, like, the US and China can't be divorced. Like we cannot be divorced. We rely too much on each other. They need our consumer. We need their labor. There's just, like, they have to figure out how to get along, which is ultimately why, you know, you probably buy the dip and say eventually they figure it out. But as of now, it's not there. Matthew says taco. I don't know, dude. I don't know if this is a taco. We're going to have to see next week. That's just the hard part about buying heavy today. I think today you buy something. That's my official take. You buy something today. I bought something today. But I don't think you use the majority of your buying power today because you just don't know what happens next week. And I think we need a little bit more context on what's going on with China next week to figure out if this gets worse or if this is enough for people to step in. All right, that's what we got. Thank you, everybody, for being here. A little bit of a longer stream today. We'll be back on the market close. I think word of the day would be tariffs again. Are we doing tariffs? Word of the day. How much was Triple V down? I don't even want to ask. What's going on? We'll be back on the close. I think Steve will be on. If not, I'll see if Chris can also make it because he couldn't make it yesterday. We'll try to get some perspectives. But yeah, definitely a bit of an ugly day. At the end of the day, one thing I think we can all agree on is we were bound to have some pullback eventually. It happened because of a Trump China tweet, and now we just have to see how much it becomes an issue going into next week. So we're going to see. We're going to see. Yeah, word of the day, volatility. Volatility is the word of the day. Nikhil, thank you for the $10 super sticker. Appreciate it. I need to go text my dentist and tell her that my root canal is okay. Dude, I didn't expect her to text me, bro. I didn't know they check up on you after you get a root canal. That kind of surprised me. I was like, they really text you to make sure you're doing okay? But yeah, I'll let her know I'm all right, even though we're down 100 grand today. All right, that's it. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. We'll be back on the market close, see what we got going on, and we'll keep going from there. Thank you, everybody. Have a good one. See you guys on the market close. Bye, everyone.